Chapter 1473. The black dog was bewildered. Who was this little old man? Why was he staring at him with his oily green eyes? Was he crazy? It was very dissatisfied. Baring its broken teeth, it glared back fiercely. It did not realize that it had snatched the other party's master away. The martial madman was furious. You raided my dojo, snatched, kidnapped my master, and you still dare to be so arrogant? Look at that dog face of yours. What kind of person is this? What kind of dog is this? This is too hateful. The martial madman really wanted to slap it to death. The other side was not peaceful either. Li Su was very sincere and kept explaining. Although I'm blessed, I'm really dead. Li Haizi, shut up. No one wanted to listen. You old scoundrel, you still have the face to mention it? Moreover, this is not the main point now. Don't change the subject. At this moment, the few old experts only wanted to know why you ran to our backyard. Their eyes were like purgatory, frighteningly cold. Li Su said with a serious face, Actually, I did it for your own good. When the empty nest old scholars heard this, their blood immediately surged with rage, flames erupting. They didn't want to say anything else, just wanted to kill him. Li Su waved his hand, looked at them, and said righteously, Everything was to save you. Say that again and I'll see. The few people surrounded him, all ready to take action. Li Su said, I just wanted to see if there was anything ominous or strange in your backyard. I'm afraid that you've been harmed. With a solemn face, he said, Look, the Soul Light Cave is so dangerous. It's actually connected to the Soul River. The real cave master should have been killed and replaced. Killed my *s. The master of the Soul Light Cave was originally from the Soul River. The few people's faces darkened. How could you say such a reason? Li Su said seriously, This kind of danger is very serious. Don't ignore it. It's very serious and cannot be refuted. You think you're reasonable? You don't want us to say anything and cannot be refuted? You outrageously Haizi, why don't you go and die? What did you take from our cave abode? Someone asked faintly. I didn't bring anything with me. I'm not interested in your coffins. Have you seen my coffin in the Great Inn? It's much richer than yours. I don't lack what you have. The few of them didn't want to listen anymore. This shameless old scoundrel was as heartless as prehistoric times. They chose to directly make a move and kill him. Boom! A mushroom cloud exploded as the few Empyrean nest old scholars attacked hatefully. As a result, a caw sounded from the distance. The white crow cried out angrily and wailed in grief. All of the feathers on its body were blasted off, and its entire body was bare. It was so angry it was trembling, feeling humiliated into anger. Originally, it was secretly happy, sitting and watching the few people fight among themselves. In the end, it was inexplicably attacked. This was naturally done by Li Su. He was simply guarding against a few hot-tempered old geezers. Just now, his body glowed like a smooth and warm mirror, reflecting all the attacks back to White Crow. This was a lost technique that was very difficult to master. Li Su said with a stern expression, Everyone, this is the Soul River. Don't be like this, or else it will only make your enemies happy. Look at how happy that Baldy is laughing, how happy he is. White Crow heard this. Who was he talking about? Seeing Li Su pointing at it, White Crow immediately flew into a rage. You're the Baldy. Your whole family is the Baldy. However, its entire body was snow white without a single strand of hair. It was indeed a little conspicuous. It was incomparably resentful. White light erupted from its body, and fluffy feathers rapidly grew out to cover its body. What a scandal! Before the great enemy we should unite against them. Number 9's fused body walked over, holding a rusty, worn-out spear in its hand. Inexplicably, that spear gave people an extremely frightening feeling, and even their soul light couldn't help but tremble. The few old scholars quieted down. Facing the Soul River, it was indeed not the time to tear apart internally. They still had this common understanding. Of course, they were still indignant. This damned Lee, weren't you taken away by the heavens? How nice would it be to not see him again? You really shouldn't have come back to life. Masters, this disciple pays his respects. Lee greeted them seriously. Number 9's fused body sighed and said, "It's been hard on you. After so many years, you've always been kind and always had light in your heart. It's really not easy." The faces of the few empty-nest old geezers twitched after they heard this. All of them were infuriated. They almost sprayed his face with spittle. "Do you know how to talk like a human? How dare this disciple of yours talk about kindness and light? In prehistory, he was called the Big Black Hand, okay?" Lee was incomparably solemn and said, "This disciple will solemnly follow your teachings. Although the path is difficult and the wind and rain are blowing against me, I will press forward courageously and remain the same from start to finish." "Aren't you ashamed of your righteous words? Aren't your face burning?" The few old scholars were extremely resentful. "What firm Tao heart, unchanging from start to finish. You Blackie, you're going to walk this path until the very end." Their gazes were extremely unkind. Number 9's fused body nodded seriously, and a benevolent smile appeared on his face. He was very gratified, and this expression almost caused the few old scholars to explode. Then, Number 9's fused body wore a solemn expression and he said, "Everyone, don't dislike what I've heard. In the future, you'll understand that my disciple is kind and has light in his heart. It's really not easy for him to walk alone in this boundless black fog. Have you two, master and disciple, fed your conscience to dogs? Enough." The master of the Black Blood Research Institute couldn't bear it anymore. "Woof, what did you say?" Nearby, the large black dog was displeased, and he stared at him with an extremely unkind expression. The master of the Black Blood Research Institute instantly shut his mouth. At this moment, the Dog Emperor was facing the Martial Emperor, and it was really an extremely domineering scene. "I never lie. Do you think I'll be interested in your mediocre appearance? Even a random strand of my hair would be thicker than yours, yet you, a little brat, are actually called the Martial Emperor? Are you trying to be on par with me?" The Martial Emperor's eyes turned green. He really wanted to say, "I haven't even opened my mouth, yet you, a vicious dog, insulted me first. F***ck, go and reason with me. Also, what did this dog call him? Little brat." Boom! As the black dog spoke, his spittle flew everywhere, and he slapped out with his paw again. Of course, his target wasn't the martial madman, but the white crow in the distance. Another pile of crow feathers fell to the ground. The white crow was enraged. "Are all of you crazy? Why don't you kill a few people first when you're fighting amongst yourselves? Why do you always attack me when you're angry?" He was enraged. "Let's fight, I've had enough." The white crow shouted in grief and indignation. Who cared? Even if he was scolded by his father and punished by the rules of the ultimate land, he still wanted to vent his anger. Otherwise, what fun would there be in his life? He was too angry, and he had had enough. "Come, let's fight," the black dog roared. Then, he turned around and shouted at everyone, "I don't care what kind of grievances you have, even if you've killed your father or stolen your wife, don't fight amongst yourselves here. Don't drag me down. Now, it's time for the Soul River to be bathed in blood. Prepare to kill." This place was completely silent, and the terrifying atmosphere was terrifying to the extreme. "Very well, as you wish. I'll open the prelude to the blood purge in advance. Let's fight." In the depths of the Soul River, a cold voice came from the ultimate wretched earth. An ancient white crow was faintly discernible. It was the white crow's father. Chi. A white feather flew over like a heavenly arrow, but also like a pure white spear. It pierced through the void with boundless energy and an aura that shocked the heavens. Its radiance illuminated the heaven and earth. With a rumble, it smashed everything and blasted towards the black dog. Bang! The black dog growled. The sound waves from his mouth were like a flood breaking through a dam, blocking the white feather arrow and causing it to explode in front of him. The black hole was blasted open, and it was a shocking scene. "You're old and can't hold on anymore." In the ultimate land of the Soul River, the old white crow spoke with an indifferent voice. "It's enough to kill you." At this moment, black light erupted from the black dog's body. His body enlarged and overlooked the entire wretched earth. His large claws rapidly enlarged, and even his nails were several times larger than the stars. He clawed at the ultimate land of the Soul River, wishing he could directly crush the legendary wretched earth and completely destroy it. Goo! In the depths of the ultimate land of the Soul River, the white crow's father was cold and detached. He reached out a sharp claw that was similarly terrifying and clawed outward. The irregular scenes there were horrifying. Below the claw were countless celestial bodies shattering and scenes of the starry skies being annihilated. This was simply a scene of the end of the world. Were these all types of true murderous calamities that were created in the past? However, he suddenly backed up. He was horrified and felt great uneasiness. I had actually overlooked something. Just now, I seemed to have gone blind and my spiritual senses were abnormal. I didn't discover the Emperor corpse. It was as if some type of karma force was guiding me over to grab it. All of the feathers on the white crow's father's body stood on end. Only at the final moment did he remember that the black dog carried the Emperor corpse on its back. There was an indescribable force of karma pulling him over to touch the Emperor corpse. This was too terrifying. He couldn't help but tremble. He quickly retracted his claw and retreated. That enormous dog claw covered heaven and earth as it smashed down on the vile earth. It was going to break through that place. However, without a sound, a layer of light appeared. Mist rose and all kinds of indescribable scenes appeared, such as the decay of the heavens and the rotting of supreme creatures. All kinds of indescribable scenes appeared at the same time. They resisted the dog's claw and were going to corrode it. The black dog decisively retracted his claw. Then, he took out the Emperor's bell and prepared to smash it over. "Dog, you're too weak. Stop for now and let me do it." At this time, the fused body of number 9 stepped forward with a rusty spear in his hand. It looked unremarkable, but its restrained sharpness was truly terrifying. "You're the one who's weak," the black dog panted. Its own blood and chi were exhausted. It was indeed too exhausting. It really wanted to blast open the ultimate land with a slap, but that wasn't realistic. Therefore, it could only step forward with the Emperor's bell. "Dog, it's been a long time. I didn't expect a little brat like you to be so old. Sigh, time is a knife that kills dogs. The world is full of tragedies." The fused body of number 9 spoke. It was incomparably emotional, somewhat disappointed and sad. For the first time, the black dog felt fed up. In this group of people, the only monster that was older than it was this human skin. Flaunting his seniority was too disgusting. "You only have a few layers of skin left. Why haven't you died yet?" the black dog said unhappily. It carried the Emperor's bell and was indignant. At this time, the martial emperor, the master of the Black Blood Research Institute, and a group of old ultimate experts seemed to have discovered that it was carrying a corpse on its back. Then, all of them felt their blood run cold. Why hadn't they sensed it before? What kind of power was this? It was actually overlooked and couldn't pay attention to the corpse. For a moment, everyone was greatly shaken. They were incomparably silent. The fused body of number 9 opened its mouth and said, "I won't die. The earth is difficult to bury, so I've come to the Soul River. Let's see if the monsters here will accept me or not. Let me rot earlier. I've truly lived enough." Everyone was speechless. These words really made them feel like they were being oily. "I reckon you're done for. You'll die here today," said the black dog. "Then let's wait and see. I'm just afraid that I'll stab a few big guys to death when the time comes. I'm not a vegetarian. I'll eat everything today. Meat, vegetables, weapons, soul light. I want them all. Just as they were talking, a few more pieces of human skin floated over in a leisurely manner. They quickly merged with number 9 and made him look even more plump. He looked more and more like a normal person. At this moment, the old ultimate experts were all trembling with fear. The first mountain was strange as expected. This old thing was too mysterious. The 9 pieces of human skin really belonged to the same person. In the past, it was only a guess, but now it was confirmed. This was terrifying. It was many times more terrifying than just number 9 alone. Your flesh is gone. Why haven't you rotted away? You're so good at enduring. The black dog was unconvinced. That old thing's cultivation method was too special. His path was incomparably strange. It made people envious. Call me 9 Dowie, said the fused body of number 9. Then, he said, my flesh is still here. I reckon that he's lost his way. I'm keeping the human skin as a memento. I reckon that he'll find his way home one day and come back to reunite with us. Also, I don't know where my bones are. I hope he's fine. I wish him well. I'll wait for him at home. Everyone was dizzy and speechless. What kind of monster was this? His skin, flesh, and bones all stood on separate mountains. Some of them had run away and were now living on their own? This was too evil. However, if they thought about it a little more, it would make them feel horrified. They would get goosebumps. I don't want to talk to you. The black dog didn't want to pay him any attention. At this moment, a strange movement came from the depths of the ultimate land of the Soul River. Then, a majestic pressure spread out, making everyone feel suffocated. They couldn't help but tremble. Even people as strong as them felt this way. One could imagine how terrifying this was. It was too terrifying. A piece of stone slowly flew over. It continuously enlarged until it became a grand Tao platform. Then, another piece flew out from the ultimate land. There were dozens to over 100 pieces. They were pieced together to form a grand platform that was full of cracks. It had experienced countless battles. It also looked a bit like an altar. It had once been broken into pieces and reassembled. Now, there were still dried blood remnants on it. The platform was expanding. Soon after, it became boundless, as if it was a great world. Even though the Emperor battlefield of the past has been blasted apart, only a ruined corner left, it is still enough to support our current battle scale. Come, let's fight to the death. The White Crow's father said coldly from the depths of the vile earth. It was cold and indistinct, becoming more and more unyielding. The Black Blood Research Institute's master and others were all shocked. Was that heavenly Emperor blood? Was that the blood of an unmatched creature from the ultimate land of the Soul River? The platform was covered in bloodstains, all of them left behind from the great battles of the past. However, those dried and cold bloodstains had long lost their spirituality. All of their vitality had been erased back then. Even if there is blood, it might not necessarily be left behind by an emperor. At the very least, what you all see isn't. 9 Dowie spoke. He carefully observed it. There shouldn't be any emperor blood. Even if its spirituality was erased, emperor blood wasn't something an ordinary expert could endure. It wouldn't be left outside. I've seen a corner of this battlefield again. The black dog spoke. Then, it leapt out, arriving on the boundless platform. It carefully lowered the emperor corpse, preparing to fight to the end. The black dog said, "My life has perhaps reached its end. The shackles of this world have all been destroyed. In this place, there is only a bloody battle to the end. Those who aren't afraid of death, come at me together. Those who want to hold us back, leave while it's still early. Then let's kill. Today we will kill until the sun and moon lose their light and the Soul River grows dim. This old one is going to go crazy as well. I want to see if I can wipe out the crippled ultimate land of the Soul River and purge it with blood." 9 Dowie spoke. His hair was disheveled, his eyes like lightning. At this moment, he was no longer kind, no smile on his face. It was as if an unmatched demon lord had descended. The aura he released was shocking. At this moment, all realms in the heavens sensed it, all of them trembling. There were some places where the heavens were crying, a rain of blood scattering down. In addition, he was chanting an ancient incantation, trying to summon his flesh and bones. It was unknown where he was now, but he hoped that they could return to participate in the battle. Even though the old ones were extremely powerful, they still felt their scalps go numb, feeling as if their bodies were going to be torn apart. That aura was too shocking. The great battle hadn't even erupted, yet this monster Nine Dowie already gave them an incomparable sense of pressure. It was too terrifying. Whoosh! Tai moved, rushing up the altar and saying, "I was once frivolous in my youth. I was once the protagonist of an era, and I was once a good person." Looking back, he sighed softly. His path was filled with blood and bones. For the sake of eternity, for the sake of becoming stronger, he was no longer as dazzling as before, and he was no longer stained with blood. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The old ones all stepped onto the platform battlefield. That spear of yours. Could it be left behind by that person? At this time, the black dog noticed the rusty spear in Nine Dowie's hand. Even though it was covered in rust, it still made people feel uneasy. Which person? The old ones present were extremely bewildered, but they soon realized that it must be the weapon left behind by the legendary person who dared to dig up the ancient reincarnation path to find the ancient underworld. Everyone was shocked. Was this even possible? It was practically enough to scare the old monsters of the heavens to death. Take a guess. Nine Dowie replied indifferently. He was still chanting the ancient incantation, summoning the flesh and bones. Aren't we going to extort benefits from them first? Li Su secretly transmitted to the black dog. If we don't cripple them or kill them, what benefits can we expect? This is the Soul River, not some other place. You haven't truly seen the bloodthirst and brutality in their bones, the dog emperor replied in secret. At this time, a terrifying aura spread out. White light tore through the sky, but it couldn't damage the altar battlefield in the slightest. The White Crow's father was slowly approaching. This ancient crow was indeed incomparably powerful. Even though it had yet to recover, it was still very terrifying. Behind it, in front of it, there were creatures everywhere, surrounding it and crowding it in the center. It could be said that there was no end to it. The army was densely packed, and many of them were dried corpses. There were also pure spirits, and there were even monsters covered in red fur. The black dog became serious. It knew very well that the Soul River was not easy to fight and deal with. In the past, its own camp had lost many powerhouses. How lively! I'm here too. At this critical moment, another person suddenly appeared on the platform. He was very bloated, and his whole body was rotten. When he jumped up, he was very carefree, but as soon as he landed on the battlefield, he staggered, his neck crooked, and his head fell to the ground with a thud. Sigh, the flesh isn't sturdy anymore. Motherf asterisk cur, even the head rebelled and ran away by itself. He mumbled. Rumble. The head rolled out, and it was indeed somewhat terrifying. Many dried corpses on the opposite side roared in anger, but in the end they all exploded with a bang. At this time, even the martial madman was speechless. Who was this master? He was too savage. Rumble. The head rolled larger and larger until it was larger than a planet, and it was still changing as it crushed forward. If this wasn't the battlefield of emperors, the platform would have already collapsed. Enough! The White Crow's father shouted. He flapped his wings and attacked forward. Big Duck, thank you for returning your grandfather's head, the headless corpse said. In the boiling white light, the head was sent flying, but in the end it landed steadily on the corpse's neck. He stretched out his hands, and with a click, he straightened his head and fixed it. At this time, even Tai stared blankly. He felt that this master was very strange, and he was definitely ridiculously powerful. "Dog, did you miss me? Did you cry when I passed away?" The corpse looked at the dog emperor and laughed. "I didn't expect that I would still be rotting and alive." The black dog bared its teeth, and it really wanted to bite him to death. The bloated corpse patted its butt and said, "Come, I'll let you bite me." "Woof, bah." The black dog felt disgusted. Look at the rotting flesh, and it was still trembling. Who the hell would dare to bite it? "Biting you? Isn't that self-torture?" It felt disgusted. "Kill." At this time, the ancient crow on the battlefield opened its mouth and gave the order. In an instant, the boundless army's killing intent surged into the sky, alarming the heavens and the 10,000 worlds. This kind of soul river chi was too terrifying. Countless creatures rushed forward, shaking the heavens and earth. "Come, come, come. This emperor has never been afraid of big scenes. Isn't it just because you have more people? No matter, watch this emperor's unparalleled divine ability, landing and becoming an emperor." The black dog shook its body, and instantly, thousands of black rays shot out. Although it was bald and its fur was about to fall off, it was still possible to accumulate a pile of dog fur. It was just like how a rotten ship still had 3,000 nails. With a shake of its tail, dog fur would fill the sky, and then it would fall to the ground and become a dog. A group of black dogs barked and howled, their voices echoing through the 33 levels of heaven. They all pounced, biting, and killing, shocking everyone. This was the unparalleled divine ability, landing and becoming an emperor. The battle strength of this group of black dogs was indeed very strong, extremely shocking. Moreover, they all held various famous ancient treasures, and so on, and attacked together. Those weapons were all the dog emperor's many years of collection. Instantly, the sky exploded, and the battlefield shook violently. "Caw meow, meow." The white crow cried out, and in an instant, it no longer looked like a crow. After being beaten up several times, it began to cry like a cat. This was not a random cry. From the beginning, it had been on guard against that ferocious dog, and used the 9 Lives Cat Clan's wondrous technique in advance to protect itself from death. Fortunately, it had done so. Otherwise, with the black dog's focus this time, if it directly landed and became a dog, becoming an emperor, it would probably have been killed. Even so, a few of the white crow's lives were instantly sucked out, and it was killed several times. "Father!" "Caw, caw, meow, meow." The white crow was in a miserable state. Its feathers withered, and its flesh and blood flew everywhere. In an instant, it was almost eaten alive by the big black dogs. Landing and becoming an emperor was too terrifying. Chapter 1474. The white crow was in a miserable state. Its body had been torn apart, and its white feathers had withered. It was about to be eaten by a pack of black dogs. It was already filled with hatred and loathing for that black dog. Now, it was no longer just one black dog, but a large pack that surrounded it. There was nothing more miserable than this. Their hatred and loathing would increase by tens or hundreds of times and surround you, drowning you. The white crow was immediately drowned in a sea of black dogs. At this moment, it had fallen into purgatory. It was being bitten and eaten by the dogs. Woof, woof. Dog barks and howls could be heard everywhere. The white crow's brain was about to be shaken out, and its ears had long since become deaf. Blood flowed from all 7 apertures of its head, and it was incomparably terrified. It was truly afraid. It was surrounded by a pack of black dogs, and its body was covered in terrifying wounds. It cried out in pain, sometimes with a croak, and sometimes with a meow. "My white wing!" In an instant, one of its wings was gone, and it fell into the dogs' mouths. Before it could finish screaming, one of its claws was also gone. Soon, it found that its left rib was leaking air, and its abdomen had been hollowed out. Its whole body was covered in blood, and a moment of carelessness would cause a part of its body to be missing. The bite marks on its wounds were very obvious. "Ah!" the white crow cried out miserably. Its body was about to be eaten up again. How many times had it died already? It was incomparably horrified. Even using the 9 lives cat clan's undying technique was not enough. It would die more than 9 times in a while. It wasn't that it wasn't strong enough, but who could endure being surrounded and bitten by hundreds of savage dogs? This was the result of the dried corpses in the distance sharing the damage. Otherwise, there would be even more black dogs rushing over. The ancient crow attacked, targeting the dog emperor. With a hum, the void exploded, and the whole battlefield shook violently. It was like a white sun crossing the sky, too resplendent and beautiful. In a split second, boundless energy boiled. The place where it stood seemed to become eternal, causing the space to fracture and time to splash like ripples. At this moment, the ancient crow was shocking. It directly approached, and the area around the trajectory it had drawn out was filled with dense energy. A huge explosion occurred, and an endless mushroom cloud bloomed behind it, causing the whole battlefield to shake and rumble. Boom! In the surroundings of a terrifying white sun, Tao ancestor matter boiled. Divinity granules were like a sea, burning as they collided with the black dog emperor. It was too ferocious. Both of them were incomparably domineering, the corners of their eyes splitting. They fought bloodily without retreating, colliding with life and death, making the void collapse. Both sides' bodies were also being torn apart, blood dyeing heaven and earth. There was nothing much to say. The two of them immediately engaged in a life and death battle. It was extremely tragic. This area suddenly became empty. Apart from the two of them, the dried corpses, red-furred monsters, and spiritual bodies, no matter how powerful they were, had all been melted. Ancestral Tao substance was dense between the two of them, and divinity granules were like an ocean as they fought intensely. Other living beings were unable to approach them, and it was terrifying to the extreme. The collision startled all over the heavens. Right now, the outside world was a bit chaotic. It was unknown just how many heavenly domains were rumbling, the heavens splitting apart, blood continuously dripping down. There were even scenes of the corpses of Tao ancestors falling down, and scenes of immortal kings dying in group. Apart from this, there was even a soul river that appeared, stretching across the heavens above, intimidating all creatures. In all places, all experts gasped, becoming completely horrified. Was this a battle between realms? There are great realms colliding, realm-raising power, a decisive battle of life and death, a bloody struggle to the end? In other worlds, there were old monsters that revived, revealing expressions of shock. They had a premonition that the prelude to a bloody battle of the heavens was about to be unveiled. Today was definitely a special day, one that would most likely be recorded in the annals of history. Was another great era about to reach its end? The effects of this battle were far-reaching, the implications too great. It was most likely the start of another downfall. The entire great earth, the 10,000 realms, were going to sink into darkness. Prepare for battle. Awaken the ancient ancestors, this day has finally arrived. In the end, we won't be able to avoid it. All types of voices sounded from various heavenly domains. There were those who were unwilling, those who were gloomy, those who lost their fighting spirit, and those whose blood was boiling. There were all kinds of people, and everyone's wishes were different. Soul River, in the world within the gate, the great battle was becoming more and more desperate. They had just exchanged blows, yet the black dog's entire body was already covered in blood. There were several thick cracks that almost made its body break apart, stretching from its shoulder to its abdomen, all of its internal organs exposed. The ancient crow wasn't much better off, one of its wings drooping, a portion of its head caved in, feathers flying everywhere. White light burned, blood scattering everywhere. They were old enemies, the hatred endless, both of them wishing to skin the other alive. As soon as they met, their eyes became red from killing intent. However, even though both of them wished to kill the other party, there was still a bit of resentment between them. After so many years had passed, they both wanted to see if they could suppress the other party with their own strength. That was why they didn't even use all types of additional methods. If you have the guts, then don't use the Emperor Bell. First rely on your own strength to think things over. The ancient crow released a long cry, ringing through heaven and earth. Its white feathers were like rainbows, all of them erupting, piercing towards the black dog. This emperor will naturally kill you, crush you to death like a little sparrow. Just die for me. The black dog roared. New grudges and old grudges, there was endless blood enmity between them, impossible to dissolve. Back then, Soul River slaughtered the world, the ancient underworld looming. Too many inauspicious things happened, strange things everywhere, causing the heavens to be in a state of terror. If not for several heavenly emperors leading their troops out, everything would no longer exist. Back then, they fought their way to Soul River, slaughtering their way to the ultimate destination, incredibly bitter, drawing out too many things. There were some monsters that were completely unimaginable. There were some monsters that hadn't appeared in the world for many great eras. Even if ancient ruins were dug up, it would still be difficult to find any records of them. However, in that battle they appeared, the slaughter exceptionally bitter. The sun and moon fell, expanse after expanse of cosmos becoming deathly still. There were even great worlds that collapsed, disappearing like bubbles, as if they had never appeared in the first place. Not even records, not even fragments, not even remains were left behind. The enemies were too terrifying, the things that crawled out from Heavenly Emperor Burial Pit too mysterious, the monsters that came from the lower reaches of the four extremes floating earth unimaginably powerful. That was why even Heavenly Emperors shed blood, the price they paid extremely great. Otherwise, if there wasn't a battle situation, the heroes all present, just how resplendent would that era have been? There were countless heroes, heavenly geniuses appearing together, shining with the sun and moon, illuminating the starry skies of endless ages, extremely prosperous, incomparably glorious. However, after this battle, what was left? Heavenly Emperor's old troops were scattered, those that disappeared, those that died, those that were crippled, many old friends buried in foreign realms, falling in foreign lands, never to be found again. Roar. The black dog roared, raising its head towards the sky, large enough to devour the sun and moon, shattering the sea of stars. It was incomparably large, slaughtering its way towards the ancient crow. It thought of too many things. Those old friends could no longer be seen, everything coming to an end, only it and a limited number of people left, barely able to hold on, surviving with great difficulty. Now, even an old general like it was about to wither away, all traces of the past difficult to preserve. Hong Long. The space between the dog emperor's brows shone, a vertical eye suddenly appearing and opening, releasing an unmatched beam of light, blasting the ancient crow's body. Pooh! The ancient crow's body was pierced through, and then it collapsed, a bloody mist appearing. It released a long cry, the white feathers covering the sky quickly rushing together, reforming again. In such a short amount of time, it was actually directly beaten into a cripple once, making its face fall. You are still too old in the end, you can't hold on anymore. If it was back then, this attack would have been enough to take my true life. The ancient crow said coldly. Then, the feathers covering its body shone like raging flames, burning endless great Tao divine chains, interweaving together, forming a heavenly Tao net, covering forward. Hong. The two sides fought at close quarters, continuously colliding. The black dog was also seriously injured, all of the fur on its body peeled off piece by that terrifying heavenly Tao net, blood dripping everywhere. However, they didn't cower back, deciding to fight to the death, not hesitating to become covered in blood, flesh even breaking apart. Fighting to the death, not retreating. Kill! The ancient crow was naturally extremely powerful. In the past, it was an extremely powerful and vicious character. At the same time, it also had other defensive methods, or else it wouldn't dare approach the black dog with the Emperor bell. It emphasized that it was fighting with strength, mainly because there was a knot in its heart that was difficult to untie. In the past, half of its body had been eaten by the dog emperor. When the Soul River Ultimate Land went berserk, both sides dared to eat anything, as long as it could replenish their own energy. This was enough to prove just how bitter that great battle was, rarely seen since ancient times. Both sides truly went berserk, not even the Celestial Emperor an exception. That day, it went berserk, roaring while bathed in blood, fighting bloody battles against the giant. That battle was the ancient crow's greatest shame and humiliation. Who was it? It was an incomparably formidable creature in the Soul River, yet it was actually treated as food by the black dog. How could it endure this? That was why it acted viciously today, determined to get revenge for the grudge from back then, determined to suppress the dog emperor until it lowered its head, suffer a great defeat, suppress the black dog until it couldn't hold on anymore. Chi. Divine rainbows erupted, time like blades, all types of natural laws blossoming between the two like dazzling flowers, layer after layer, fighting until even the Emperor battle platform was lightly crying. Pooh! The black dog released a muffled groan. One of its front claws was broken off, the injury terrifying, but only a bit of blood flowed out. Moreover, the luster wasn't sparkling or bright. Declining body, aged body, the current you isn't enough to fight against me. Your body has already decayed, even your blood energy has dried up. The ancient crow sneered. Even though its body was also injured, its foundation having been pierced through by the great Tao back then, receiving serious injuries, it had cultivated in the Soul River Ultimate Land for many years, so its condition was much better than the black dog's. Roar! The black dog stood up, using its feet to support itself on the ground, its movements fast to the point where one couldn't even see its afterimage. It was too terrifying, even time itself becoming chaotic, as if it was flowing in reverse. Celestial Emperor's ultimate art? The ancient crow's expression changed, frantically backing up. This dog displayed the past Celestial Emperor's ultimate art to the extreme, already sublimating it. That was a type of footwork technique, as well as a movement technique, the extreme being the domain of time. By sublimating this foundation, it touched upon even more vast aspects, all Tao resonating with it, the might of the heavens supporting its body. Right now, the black dog's trajectory couldn't be grasped. It was displaying some unmatched secret technique, moving through the heavens, impervious to all methods. A terrifying aura pervaded the air. Boom! It tore the ancient crow apart, breaking it into two pieces. This was a speed that surpassed the extreme sublimation, causing even time to become chaotic. The ancient crow's physical body collapsed and was destroyed. Moreover, the dog emperor also swooped down towards the ancient crow's soul light, wanting to directly eliminate it. The ancient crow was horrified. Fortunately, this was the Soul River, and it had enough confidence to be conceited. In an instant, tens of thousands of waves surged, and endless soul matter surged over, wrapping around it. Moreover, it shifted its position, using a supreme forbidden technique to evade this sure-kill attack, reconstructing its true body in the distance. You dog thing, you're really going all out. You still dare to consume blood chi in such a weakened state, continuously displaying 3 Celestial Emperor technique. You don't want to live anymore, do you? The ancient crow looked at it coldly. Its body swallowed and spat out energy, and the consumption was great. Just now, it almost lost a true life. That was the Celestial Emperor's attack method, the fruit of sublimation of his lifetime's comprehension of secret techniques after attaining the unmatched Celestial Emperor's Tao fruit. It was truly peerless and endlessly profound. These techniques had accompanied that Celestial Emperor in the early years, and later on, they were deduced anew by him. It could even be said that it was equivalent to a new creation. It had long surpassed the scriptures obtained in the past by who knew how many levels, and its profoundness was unfathomable. "Damned duck, this emperor will definitely kill you." The black dog panted heavily, staring ahead with its bell-sized eyes. This time, it had the absolute advantage, and almost killed its enemy. However, only it knew that its physical body was truly about to decay, and it couldn't bear this kind of consumption. In the distance, the expert with the bloated body and rotting flesh sighed. How proud were they in the past? They had actually fallen to such a state. In that era, how prosperous and powerful were they? But now they couldn't even use a slight killing move when they attacked, and there was a huge problem with their bodies. Back then, a group of brothers set out to pacify the chaos of the Soul River and suppress the powerful creatures of the ancient underworld. So many people died in the end, and some were crippled. Only a few were left. Now they barely survived, but their physical conditions were also so poor. They were rotting, and their blood chi was drying up. They couldn't even maintain their bodies. It was a bit lamentable. If they were still at their peak, and their blood energy still overflowed into the heavens, how could they be so strained today? "Big Black, hold on," the decayed corpse said with a sigh. At this time, he also went crazy, erupting with a rotting aura. Corpse mist covered the sky as he blasted forward. In his hands there were two special weapons. His left hand held a pickaxe, and his right was a shovel. It was as if he was digging the earth, but also as if he was cutting through the long river of history, cutting through everything and flattening everything. "Your grandpa, has even flattened your master's grave, so why would I be scared of you little brats? Grandpa has even gone a long way into the ancient underworld. You guys are nothing," he shouted loudly. Up ahead, large amounts of dried corpses and countless Soul River creatures exploded, all of them blasted into flying ashes. However, this was the Soul River, so how could there only be one expert, Guya? Not far out, there was a humanoid monster covered in golden scales, black blood flowing from the corners of his mouth. He carried a rotting aura, and his gaze was deep and cold, as if a heavenly blade was pressing down. An ominous aura instantly covered the world, and it seemed even stronger than Gu Ya's. "Kill!" The bloated man released a short shout. The rotting flesh all over his body trembled chaotically as he rushed over with the pickaxe in hand, directly attacking Hong. An extremely intense battle also erupted here. On the other side, Nine Daos was berating and roaring. His head of gray hair danced about chaotically as if he was possessed. He had encountered a terrifying enemy from back then. This creature was incomparably powerful, and at this moment, the energy it emitted made the heavens tremble. A few old monsters from the great realms were so shocked that their hair stood on end, waking up from their slumber. On the other side of Nine Daos was a vicious bird shrouded in mist. It looked like a peacock. After it spread its tail feathers, it possessed an unrivaled might. It was truly difficult to contend against, and if it was anyone else, they would definitely be killed in an instant. Even though Nine Daos was so powerful, as an incomparably ancient creature, it was still extremely strenuous for him to face such a great enemy. Peacock Soul Mother's younger brother? He recognized this creature. From its name, one could tell just how terrifying this creature was. Its older sister dared to call herself Soul Mother, so she was definitely heaven-defying. Meanwhile, its younger brother naturally wouldn't be weak, to the extent where it could be said to be unimaginably powerful. As expected, this Soul River creature was extremely intimidating. With a sweep of its tail feathers, all of Nine Daos' precious techniques were blocked, unable to get close at all. Apart from this, there was a shield hanging from its body that was constantly being refined to defend against Nine Daos' mysterious spear. That shield was too shocking. It absorbed all energy, even devouring space and time. It was too terrifying, making one suspect that it had something to do with the unmatched creature's weapon in the depths of the Soul River. 1. The most intimidating thing was that when this peacock spread its tail feathers again, an eye-like diagram appeared at the end of every single tail feather. In the end, they truly turned into eyes. Chi chi chi. All of the eyes opened, releasing terrifying beams of light. Was this the Peacock Soul Mother's unmatched forbidden technique? Its younger brother knew it as well. This old one is going to slaughter a wild chicken like you. Number 9 was furious. His hair flew about chaotically, as if he was a demon lord. His pupils changed, one pitch black like ink, the other terrifyingly white. Then, they displayed yin and yang. With a hong sound, a yin-yang diagram flew out, suppressing everything. The great battle here was bitter and incomparably shocking. It reached its climax. What Peacock Soul Mother's younger brother? I'm going to kill you. Within the radiance and resplendent symbols, 9 Daos went crazy, slaughtering his way forward. He grabbed towards that tail feather, using the yin-yang diagram to resist the other party's 10,000 streaks of light. He didn't care about the price, wishing to kill this great enemy as quickly as possible. It was because he was worried about the rotten corpse, worried about the Dog Emperor. Those two's bodies were extremely aged, their blood energy lacking. He feared that something unexpected would happen, fearing that those two would nurse a grievance here. Even if those two came with the resolution to die, long wishing to fight one last time, he still didn't want to see them leave behind regrets. Just the methods left behind by the Celestial Emperor might not be enough. After all, this was the Soul River, and there were still unparalleled living beings sleeping, not coming out. In truth, 9 Daos's own condition wasn't that good either. After all, he was only 9 remains. How long could he last in a battle of human skin? Bang! 9 Daos grabbed a handful of peacock feathers. Several terrifying bloody holes appeared on his body, but he still let out a loud roar, wanting to tear this vicious bird apart. Kill! The peacock's 5-colored divine feathers burned with world-shaking energy. This old one will explode you! Number 9 roared, wanting to tear the vicious bird apart. A bloody battle to the death had broken out here. At this moment, everyone's eyes were red from killing. Even Tai was fighting with his life on the line, slaughtering his way through the army. Even the martial madman was truly going crazy, using time techniques to sweep through the endless dried corpses around him, killing to the point of madness. At this moment, no one retreated, everyone was fighting to the death. Regardless of whether they didn't deal with each other in the past, or whether they had grudges, no one was going to drag their side down now. In a battle to the death, the only way forward, the only way was to destroy the enemy. This old one will swallow you alive. The black dog roared, still fighting a bloody battle with that ancient crow, still fighting to the death. It really wasn't willing to accept its old age, thinking back to the time when this ancient crow was its food, holding it down and gnawing on it. Now, how could it cower? It really wasn't willing to use external methods, using the Emperor Bell. It wanted to prove that its generation was still alive, still able to fight, that it hadn't reached the point of withering and completely disappearing from the world. This emperor has also gone to war with the Celestial Emperor before, sweeping through the heavens. Could it be that I still can't kill a damned duck like you today? I'll kill you! It roared loudly, its aged body shining. It stood upright, fighting to the death against its opponent, using the Celestial Emperor fist, blasting apart many interweaving divine chains of great Tao order on the battlefield, destroying everything in its way. Pooh! The ancient crow's body split into pieces, exploding once. This time, it was very miserable, its soul light scattering, losing a true life. If it wasn't for the supreme forbidden technique supporting its body, it would have died already. However, for a creature as powerful as it, its true life was also extremely precious. That was a true life, and at most, it only had a few true lives. In the past, it had died before, and now, it lost it again. It also went mad. The ancient crow reconstructed its flesh and soul light. It cried out in the distance, unable to restrain its anger, killing intent boundless as it slaughtered its way over. The Dog Emperor was roused awake, communicating with the Emperor Bell. It felt that the ancient crow most likely wasn't going to abide by the rules anymore, no longer fighting with it out of pride, no longer carrying out the so-called contest of strength. It naturally wasn't the type to suffer a loss, preparing to make the first move to gain the upper hand. The black dog roared. It stood up straight, frantically sprinting forward, looking like it was going to unleash a great slaughter, fight to the end. Dong! The ancient crow that was currently shining, preparing a great move, preparing to counterattack, suddenly felt an intense pain at the back of its head. Its vision darkened, its body becoming weak and powerless. Its head had exploded, and its brain had been blasted into pieces. Who was it? It was simply going crazy. Who the F***ck did this? Someone had struck it in the back with a stick, and it was so powerful, yet it actually didn't sense it in advance. This was truly an incomparable humiliation. It was too angry, and it wanted to roar and cry out. It was infuriated beyond compare, hating itself for not sensing it one step ahead. It was also angry that the enemy was somewhat shameless and unscrupulous. The dog emperor was also in a daze. It didn't expect that someone would actually sneak into its battle with the ancient crow. This kind of concealment ability was indeed astonishing. This was definitely a professional, and ordinary experts couldn't do this. Then it saw that professional. A beam of black light, so black that it made the ancient crow panic. Li Su's sneak attack was truly not the least bit vague. It had been hidden for a long time, and in the end it launched a fatal blow, successfully hitting the back of the ancient crow's head with the myriad mother golden seal. A successful headshot. Little black brat, you're worthy of your title. Very professional. The dog emperor howled with laughter. Roar! At the same time, how could it let go of this opportunity? It directly swooped over. Li Su naturally wouldn't stop. At this moment, at least 10 kinds of peerless techniques were used, and all of them blasted onto the ancient crow's body. Boom! The ancient crow was in a miserable state. This time, it was killed again, and it lost another true life. It was a little scared, and it felt horrified. If this continued, it would definitely die, and both its body and soul would be destroyed. After all, true lives were numbered, and each death was a disaster. It was a huge loss for a lifetime. After the ancient crow reappeared in the distance, it flew into a rage out of humiliation and roared, "You didn't follow the rules, you dog thief." The black dog coldly said, "What are you pretending to be? What was that thing hiding in your wing just now? Don't think I don't know that you didn't follow the rules first, and wanted to borrow external force to kill me. I've been guarding against you all this time." Within the black light, Li Su had a very law-abiding appearance and said, "That's right, I couldn't stand it, and I wanted to stand up for the injustice. That's why I attacked. There's no room for negotiation when I blow your head off." "Ah!" the ancient crow angrily cried, and a very short sword edge emerged from its wing. It was broken, but it was still terrifying. Just now, this sword had leaked a bit of killing intent, and the dog emperor had sensed it. This was a great killing weapon. There was nothing more to say. The black dog carried the big bell and charged over to kill him. "You think I'm afraid of you? I'll kill you all." The ancient crow let out a long cry, and the sword edge shot into the heavens. It tore through the realm walls, and even the heavens sensed it. That was definitely a weapon of the highest level, or close to it. It was too astonishing. Dang! The black dog shook the bell, and boundless bell waves swept over. Countless dried corpses and spiritual bodies exploded, and they were purified into nothingness. However, that sword edge was indeed extraordinary. It barely protected the ancient crow, and it quickly retreated to the edge of the battlefield. Chi! The ancient crow produced 2 golden beads, and the void was immediately torn apart. It was borrowing an external object to refine that sword edge. "And? You dare?" The black dog was immediately angry, and its eyes were red. It recognized what it was, a pair of eyes with golden pupils. That was the legendary fiery eyes. It even sensed a familiar aura, and it seemed to belong to an old friend. The ancient crow had produced this pair of golden pupils, using them as a sacrifice to the sword edge to activate the sword's greatest power. Seeing the familiar fiery eyes, and then seeing the ancient crow using them as a sacrifice, the black dog went mad. Its eyes were red, and it roared at the sky as if it had gone mad. Whose eyes were those? After careful observation, it confirmed that they were the bloodline of its brother, the Holy Emperor. They were the eyes of the most outstanding descendant of the battle race. The moment it recognized them, the dog emperor felt incomparable sorrow and endless anger. Back then, it had taken care of that child of the battle race as its own nephew, and it taught him with great care. After he grew up, that child's battle prowess was indeed boundless. But in the end, it was still regrettable. Back then, that child in its eyes, the peerless expert of the battle race in the eyes of others, had still died in battle in the Soul River. And now, the dog emperor saw his eyes again, they were still as bright as before. It didn't expect that the ancient crow, in order to provoke it, would actually bring out such a relic, the sacred pupil of an old friend. This made its blood boil, and its killing intent surged like the sea. "Kill!" the black dog roared. The scenes of the past replayed in its mind. How many heroes went out to battle, how many old friends died in that battle. It was too pitiful, and it felt sad and miserable. Many figures suddenly appeared in front of its eyes. The ancient crow sneered, "What's there to be sad about? It's just a relic of a dead person. This is the difference between you and me. The great Tao is emotionless, and how can a creature trapped by its own emotions win? So, your camp is destined to lose, and it will be a crushing defeat. I'll slay you, bird of death." The dog emperor struck the bell, and the bell waves were boundless. They were like stormy waves, crashing over. The ancient crow was indifferent. With a pair of golden eyes in front of its body, it continued to offer sacrifices. The dog emperor's hand trembled. It really didn't want to destroy the remaining parts of that child's body. At this moment, the face of that little sacred ape of the battle race appeared in front of its eyes. When it was young, it was pure and lively, and when it grew up, it had an indomitable spirit. Everything seemed to be right in front of it. But he had died. When it thought of this, hot tears appeared in the dog emperor's eyes. It thought of those old friends, of their descendants, those peerless children, the most outstanding descendants of the celestial court, but they were all gone. At this moment, its heart ached. Although some of those children had been sent away, there were still some left behind. Although the ones left behind had grown up, they had all died too early. They should have taken over the banner of their fathers and supported an even more boundless sky, but they had died too early. This was a tragedy for the celestial court. And when it thought of its old friends of the same generation, those tyrannical experts who, although not celestial emperors, were similarly peerless experts, all fell into the abyss, drenched in blood, the pain in the black dog's heart intensified. Hot tears finally rolled down its cheeks. This was a pain that came from the depths of its heart, and it rarely showed such emotions. "I swear that I will do my best to live, and wait until the day comes when the river of souls is flattened. Otherwise, I won't be able to die in peace. I'm not living for myself, I'm living for all my old friends. Now, I'll stop at nothing to kill you." The black dog swore, its old eyes filled with tears of blood. Today, when it saw the fiery golden eyes of that little ape from the battle race, how could it not be hurt? How could it not feel pain? That great era had ended, but there were some grudges that had yet to be avenged. That battle had yet to end and was still ongoing. In this era, everything would reappear. There were some tragedies that it didn't want to see again. There were some experiences that it didn't want to relive. In this era, it would rather die in battle than to send off those it was familiar with. Parting in life and death, the heart of the living was the most hurt. But now it changed its mind. It wanted to live, it wanted to be the eyes of those old friends, helping them see that day. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see it either. We won't let you live. You are all destined to fail. The ancient crow spoke. As it spoke, it activated its sword. Its fiery golden eyes shone, and it was still being used as a sacrifice. Boom! The black dog rushed over and fought a bloody battle with it. Zhong Bo deflected the sword. It stretched out its claws, wanting to snatch the two golden eyes. The ancient crow rapidly retreated, once again using its sword to block. At the same time, it chanted an incantation, summoning the power of the ultimate land. Rumble! Suddenly, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. A three-headed, six-armed monster with a severely damaged body appeared. Its eyes were empty and had no eyeballs. You little monkey child! The dog emperor's body swayed. It stared at the red-furred monster whose body was full of holes. Its flesh was rotting, and it emitted a dense, ominous aura. This was the owner of the fiery golden eyes. Who would have thought that his body would also be left behind? However, he was in such a miserable state. His soul wasn't present, and his body was left behind in the Soul River. I'm going to kill you all. The black dog's eyes were red like blood. The few hairs on its body all stood up. It held a large bell in its hand, swinging it and smashing it forward. This was going all out. Even at this time, its blood chi was insufficient, and it was even dried up. However, it still acted crazily and crazily. The withered blood on its body was burning, and it was incomparably terrifying. At this time, its combat strength was astonishing. It was as if it had once again returned to its most flourishing state, living together with a group of heroes in this era. Little monkey! At this time, that rotting corpse whose entire body was rotting was also incomparably sad, muttering in a low voice from the distance. This battle race descendant's entire body was covered in corpse hair that was bright red like blood. The inauspicious matter was too dense. It died here in the past, and now it was still being used like this. The dog emperor went crazy, rushing forward murderously. Go and fight! The ancient crow coldly ordered, making the sacred ape corpse that was undergoing a strange transformation fight. The dog emperor was furious. Could the Sky Emperor's trump card level this place? It felt that it was extremely difficult. After all, there were still unmatched existences sleeping here. The black dog roared towards the heavens. How many heroes were buried in foreign lands? How many experts have fallen? There isn't much left from that era. Who can still fight with me in the Soul River? Is there anyone from the battle race left? Sacred Emperor, you are the Sky Emperor's brother, extremely powerful and heaven-defying. How can you die so early? Where is your soul now? Did you see? Your son, my most beloved nephew, died in the Soul River, trapped here. Even after death, he couldn't find peace, being used by others. My brothers, where are you all? Are there any old friends left? Who can survive? Come out and fight shoulder to shoulder with me. The black dog roared in grief, sparing no effort to kill. However, it was also doing its best to avoid the incomplete corpse with 3 heads and 6 arms. That was the last trace left behind by its nephew. Roar. At this moment, in an unknown small world, a world-shaking roar resounded, filled with boundless anger, grief, and unwillingness. In the Yang realm, everyone from the 6-eared macaque clan was alarmed. Mi Tian cried out in alarm. It's the world where the ancestral land is. What happened? Roar. A huge iron rod pierced through the world. It was so huge that it could crush the sun, moon, and stars. It swept out and rushed towards the Soul Light Cave. Who is that? What is that? Many people from the 6-eared macaque clan trembled, and the young Mi Tian was even more shocked. His fiery golden eyes emitted a dazzling light. That is the world where our ancestral land is located. There is a path in the clan that is connected to it, but it won't be opened easily. That is our ancestor's burial ground. That is his weapon flying out. The old six-eared macaque said. Who is our ancestor? You should know that in our bodies, besides the six-eared macaque true blood, there is an even stronger half of the blood. We come from the battle saint tribe. In a trance, one could see a saint ape holding a huge rod. He stood tall and indomitable, shaking the wind and clouds. With a single step, he arrived at the horizon. With a boom, he directly smashed the soul light cave, broke the soul river, and then smashed the door, entering the world behind it. Roar! An earth-shattering roar shook the heavens. The iron cudgel was boundless, sweeping through the army of 10,000. With a pring sound, countless soul river creatures on the platform exploded. Even that ancient crow couldn't dodge in time and exploded. Another true life was harvested. Brother! The black dog shouted. At this moment it simply couldn't believe it. Hot tears welled up in its eyes as it roared. Is it you? Or is it just your weapon that has revived and flown over to join the battle? Brother, where is your soul? I really want to see you again and fight alongside you. Monkey! In the distance, the rotten corpse was also trembling, its eyes red. Third Sect Master. Chapter 1475. The unparalleled iron cudgel was as heavy as a mountain. It rushed into the battlefield and swept through the demons and monsters, shattering countless soul river creatures. This strike was tyrannical. That majestic iron cudgel shattered everything and annihilated all enemies. The ancient crow screamed miserably. After losing its true fate once again, it was completely terrified. After reappearing in its true form, it felt uneasy in its heart. It wanted to escape and never come into being again. That unparalleled iron cudgel had destroyed some of its essence energy. Who was this? It hid in the distance and felt an intense uneasiness in its heart. Ah! Faintly discernible, there was a roar that resounded throughout the battlefield and shook the heavens. It carried unwillingness and endless anger. In a trance, everyone saw a saint ape. He was indomitable and looked down on the past, present, and future. He raised his iron cudgel and pointed at the ultimate location of the soul river. Boom! He attacked again. The iron cudgel smashed the realm wall and severed the soul river, causing countless soul lights to burn. They turned into soul particles and completely evaporated. Moreover, one end of the iron cudgel pierced into the ultimate location, causing it to explode. Boundless vile earth sank down and completely exploded. At this moment, the heavens could hear wails. Countless malicious spirits and countless soul river creatures screamed. That was the nest, the source of the strangeness, but now it was destroyed by someone. The heavens trembled. A rain of blood and countless strange phenomena rumbled and erupted in all the realms. All of the experts were shocked. Many people saw an indistinct but still visible ape. Its entire body carried a dim golden light, illuminating all of the heavenly domains. And the supreme experts felt it even more. Through the shattered soul light cave, through that path, they saw a part of the truth. Was that the most powerful saint emperor in the history of the battle race? He was too powerful. Where was he fighting right now? It was the Soul River. All the experts were stupefied. This was truly too heaven-defying. The saint emperor who conquered the Soul River back then appeared again and slaughtered his way over. He raised the cudgel with one arm and actually destroyed the vile earth of the Soul River. With a boom, all the old monsters in the various realms were shocked into coming into being. Didn't he fall? He actually appeared today. Perhaps that wasn't the living saint emperor. His condition was very wrong and he was only an afterimage. Despite this being the case, this type of aura, this type of unrivaled domineering attitude, still shocked the heavens, absolutely matchless. He stood there, overlooking the end of the Soul River. How valiant was this? Unparalleled in the world, it was too shocking. At this moment, the black dog shed tears and was incomparably emotional. He roared, "Do you see that? This is our brother from back then. He's here to fight the Soul River again." Then, it also felt boundless sadness because it clearly knew what this meant. It growled, "Brother! Saint Emperor!" The black dog felt sorrow in its heart. It was because that was the remnant image of the Saint Emperor, it wasn't the real him. The strongest expert of the battle race had ultimately died. The afterimage didn't fade away, hearing its call. His weapon carried the shadow left behind by the Holy Emperor, breaking through all obstructions. The iron cudgel pressed down on the Soul River, striking here. Monkey! From afar, the decayed corpse let out a thunderous roar, filled with boundless sorrow and pain. Such a tyrannical and unrivaled expert of the battle race was actually going to disappear forever. Back then, the grievous news shook the entire world, but those who survived were still unwilling to believe it. They felt that given how powerful the Holy Emperor was, he would still stubbornly continue living on. Today, he appeared, crushing the Soul River and the vile soil. He was still as tyrannical as ever, but now, he caused people to feel so dejected that they couldn't help but want to cry. The iron cudgel soared through the air. That blurry and dim golden figure slowly descended, moving towards the red-furred monster whose eyes were gouged out. That was his son. A low roar rang out. Even though he was an absolute hegemon, the strongest Saint Emperor in the history of the battle race, right now, his afterimage was also filled with sorrow. He roared with his cudgel, tearing apart the Soul River and crushing the vile soil. The afterimage was filled with sorrow. Even though he was muddle-headed, he still stretched out his trembling hand, wanting to touch the head of the red-furred monster. The afterimage was originally an unyielding monkey, never yielding, never lowering his head. He spent his entire life fighting and never knew how to express his feelings. But now, his hand was trembling, clearly showing his love for his son. At this moment, many people were greatly moved. "Brother!" The black dog roared. "Monkey!" The decayed corpse roared as well. Judeoye also sighed lightly. This Saint Emperor's life was filled with misfortune. He lost his father when he was young and relied on himself to struggle tenaciously, rising up amidst the chaos. But when he was in his middle age, he lost his son, experiencing all sorts of great sorrow in his life. Even for the Battle Saint tribe, their wills were as tough as steel. But when faced with such a setback, how could they endure it? Even this old monster Judeoye was sighing. "Son!" Under the majestic cudgel, the afterimage's trembling hand landed on the body of the red-furred monster, emitting an inaudible sound. He wanted to stroke the red-furred monster's head just like how he did in the past when he was young. Roar! The red-furred monster roared. He struggled with all his might and attacked the afterimage. At this moment, the afterimage didn't dodge, allowing the monster to heavily strike his chest. His hand trembled again as he stroked the monster's head. In the depths of his eyes, the image of the monster when it was young could be seen. Roar! The red-furred monster's entire body was rotting away, exuding an ominous and bizarre aura. He had 3 heads and 6 arms, but his body was already damaged. His eye sockets were even more terrifying, incomparably empty. His fiery golden eyes had been dug out by someone. I didn't protect you well." The afterimage softly spoke, as though he was apologizing. It was simply unimaginable that such a strong and unyielding monkey would reveal such a weak side. In addition, he should have been muddle-headed and muddle-headed. But now, he was actually being controlled by some sort of emotion. A strand of his true spirit appeared, filled with incomparable sorrow and pain. The black dog was filled with regret. "Don't blame yourself. Back then, we didn't protect him well. We should have forcefully sent this child away, not letting him fight. Back then, they truly wanted to send him away, but he himself insisted on staying behind, wanting to fight to the death in the Soul River with everyone else." The decayed corpse also spoke. "You should have died in battle first. Given your strong and unyielding personality, the moment you acted, you would definitely be at the forefront. You wouldn't allow your child to die before you, unless you died first. Back then, the great battle was too terrifying, spreading in all directions. Both sides' camps were broken apart, the most powerful bloody battles happening everywhere. Blood flowed everywhere, everywhere miserable. Even the black dog and the decayed corpse also fought crazily back then. They were separated and fought with their lives on the line. They could guess that the monkey must have died for his own son first. The iron cudgel suppressed the soul river. At this time, the afterimage reached out again, fixing his own child, the red-haired monster. Then, he released a sorrowful howl. Wisps of special substance seeped out from the faint shadow, pouring into his child's body. What was he trying to do? Many people were shocked. Live! The afterimage roared. The three-headed, six-armed red-haired monster's eyes were empty and tears of blood flowed out. His body was rigid, unable to move at all. Large amounts of divine splendor were poured into him by the afterimage. The black dog was injured. Could he still be saved? It had long realized that there was no way to save him. But what could it say now? The black dog's eyes were red and swollen. It thought of too many things of the past. The little sacred ape's appearance when it was young appeared before its eyes again, so innocent and cute. During a certain special period, the little sacred ape had been sealed, but it continuously ran out on its own, crying to find its parents who had been missing for a long time. Then, it was placed on the celestial emperor's shoulder, traveling the world with him. How much was he pampered? He was taken care of by everyone. In the end, he became like this. This little monkey that was loved by everyone was too pitiful. It was too heart-wrenching. Kill them all for me. In the depths of the Soul River, the ancient crow finally calmed down and gave this order. It still had 2 final true lives. Back then, it had a total of 9 true lives. This was not the 9 lives cat's secret technique, nor was it the phoenix race's rebirth technique, but rather true lives. Today, it was continuously beaten up by others. It was filled with anger, so it didn't advance any further. It ordered the great army to move out. The Soul River didn't have anything else, but it had a large number of servants, as well as a large number of ominous and strange native creatures. Kill! The Soul River's great banner fluttered. Large amounts of experts surged out, their auras world-shaking. In addition, apart from the ancient crow, 3 more leaders appeared. Their statuses didn't seem to be inferior to it. They each led an army and slaughtered their way out. They were all humanoid in appearance. At this moment, the black dog, 9 Daos, rotten corpse, and the others were all furious. They all wanted to rush over and kill. Their hearts were originally filled with grief and indignation, yet this ancient crow still dared to take the initiative to attack. Don't be delusional if you want to save that little monkey. It's simply impossible. However, I still have to stop you. I won't leave you even the slightest bit of hope. The ancient crow fiercely shouted. Its entire body emitted white light. Today it was truly resentful. It lost its true fate again and again. For it, this was a great loss that would affect its entire life. Hong. In the next moment, without waiting for the black dog and rotten corpse to take action, the metal cudgel that reached the heavens shook. An afterimage erupted, and golden light shone endlessly. It was as if a heavenly emperor had completely revived. This type of aura and matchless battle prowess left others horrified and the heavens trembling. It was as if it had an inextinguishable will. Now, it was stimulated once again, and it couldn't coexist with the creatures of the Soul River. In particular, the ancient crow was locked onto by it. The afterimage's pupils erupted with divine radiance. This was the symbol of the super-fiery eyes. His own son's eyes were gouged out by someone, so he was now using this supreme technique to attack the enemy. The ancient crow had long since retreated into the vile earth and was far away from the battlefield. However, it was horrified to discover that the light from that special pair of eyes was actually drawing it back to the battlefield involuntarily. The most powerful heavenly emperor in the history of the battle race has truly revived? Many people in the outside world cried out in alarm. In midair, the feathers on the ancient crow's body stood on end. It had a premonition that death was imminent and that doomsday had arrived. For a moment, it used all of its forbidden techniques and the most powerful technique it could use in its entire life. In addition, it activated that special sword edge and also activated the pair of fiery eyes as a sacrifice. Morning bird. In the distance, the black dog was extremely angry. The ancient crow was still sacrificing the eyes of the little sacred ape right in front of its eyes. Even killing it immediately wouldn't be enough to appease its anger. Clang! The great bell trembled and directly enveloped that unimaginable sword edge within. No matter how peerless its sharpness was, it couldn't pierce through it and had no way to escape. Ah! The ancient crow screamed miserably. It was drawn in by a powerful force. It was still in midair when a pair of golden hands grabbed it and tore it apart. Even its soul light was in the same state. It was torn into pieces and lost another true life. In an instant, it reappeared in the distance. However, it discovered to its horror that the pair of golden eyes were still locked onto it. The golden eyes traversed through space and time and restricted it. It was as if it was trapped in a cage and was drawn in again, appearing in front of that golden sacred ape. Attack! Save me! The ancient crow shouted loudly. Its soul was about to leave its body. In the distance, the three new humanoid leaders took action together and led the great army over. They pierced through the void and arrived before the ancient crow in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the ancient crow was also chanting an incantation. It wanted to use the life-saving technique it was most proficient in to escape. Other than that, it was also ordering the little sacred ape that was covered in red corpse hair to stop its father. However, no matter how many methods it had and how many times it struggled, it couldn't change anything. At this moment, the golden sacred ape was unrivaled. It was as if it had truly erupted completely and revived. The most powerful monkey of the battle race tore the ancient crow apart again. Moreover, it blasted out a punch, turning it into a rain of blood and into a beam of light. Its body and soul were both destroyed. The ancient crow couldn't believe it even in death. Right in front of the Soul River, right at its doorstep, it was killed by someone and turned into ashes, unable to revive again. Then, the afterimage suppressed the red-haired little sacred ape with one hand and poured in divine radiance again. The other hand held the black cudgel and brandished it, as if it could pierce through the past, present, and future. With a hong sound, it smashed forward. Even though this was a place where emperors fought, the entire battlefield was still shaking intensely. There seemed to be cracking sounds ringing through the air. The past sacred emperor, the current afterimage, smashed down with his cudgel, causing the sea of creatures in the Soul River to roar in anger and unwillingness. Large amounts of them exploded. Even though the three leading creatures slaughtered their way over, one of them was still beaten to death by the cudgel. Blood splashed across the battlefield, and the other two were sent flying. Roar! At this moment, the afterimage guided over the pair of fiery golden eyes of his son. He released the little sacred ape, returning the eyes to their original positions. Then, he held the cudgel with both hands and leapt out, slaughtering his way towards the vile earth. The first to bear the brunt were naturally the two powerful creatures that were attacking him. They were covered by the black cudgel and covered in countless great Tao patterns, covering the entire battlefield. Bang! Bang! These two creatures were extremely powerful, but they were still blasted apart. A rain of blood scattered everywhere. They also had true fate, but at this moment the sacred emperor went crazy. The pain of losing his son caused him to develop a certain emotion. He was no longer muddle-headed and maintained a bit of spirituality as he unleashed a massacre. He imprisoned the leading creatures that were still alive. Even if they still had true fate in their bodies, there was no way for them to continue living. After several successive attacks, the afterimage blasted them apart and completely wiped them out. Only a large amount of blood was left, and it was accompanied by flying ashes as they scattered. "Do you see? This is my brother. Who can stop him?" The black dog excitedly cried out. It knew that the sacred emperor didn't have much time left. He most likely couldn't stay here any longer. If he continued to muddle along, he might even disappear. It angrily roared, "Trample the soul river, vile earth! Gwa!" In the distance, the white crow cried out. Its father was killed, and even with the support of its true fate, it still couldn't protect itself. It couldn't help but tremble with anger, fear, and panic. It turned around and fled towards the vile earth. It truly didn't want to continue fighting. This group of people was too terrifying, and it still wasn't in its complete form. Staying here any longer was courting death. "This path is blocked." At this time, a streak of black light that made it panic suddenly appeared. Moreover, it quickly and fiercely attacked. A blade slashed out, and with a pu sound, its head was sent flying. "Gwa!" The white crow cried out miserably. In the distance, it dripped blood and revived. It reformed its true body, abandoning its original true body. This also caused its strength to drop again. It wailed. It was targeted by this large black hand. Could it be that it was going to die here? "Kill them for me. Wipe out this group of soul whelps. If there really is a big one that survives and revives, this emperor will definitely kill him." The black dog roared, calling for everyone to kill. The rotten corpse also shouted, "Correct, there is a big problem here. Otherwise, the so-called supreme creature of the Soul River would have appeared a long time ago. Overturn the Soul River, quell the chaos with a single battle, today is the day." At this time, he had a pick in one hand and a shovel in the other. He pierced through the monster covered in scales in front of him, and broke it apart. After being provoked by the sacred ape father and son, he also went crazy. "What a pity, my soul is missing too much. Where is it now?" The rotten corpse was a bit unwilling. "I'll beat you to death." On the other side, Nine Dao's gray hair scattered down. He picked up the peacock, and blood splashed into the void. Even though that peacock was incomparably terrifying, the eyes on its tail opening one after another and shooting out strange beams of light, even injuring Nine Dao. One could see just how heaven-defying its strength was. However, it was still killed by Nine Dao and blasted apart. Even the damaged shield couldn't stop it. The ancient shield disappeared with a flash, flying away. The peacock spirit mother's younger brother died. This was like provoking a great disaster. Even more Soul River creatures slaughtered out, and there was no lack of experts. They were densely packed, and the battle didn't end. It became even more intense. "Today, I'll kill to my heart's content," Nine Dao shouted. As if he was possessed, he carried the rusty spear and took large strides towards the vile land. "Kill!" At this time, the black dog's breathing was hurried. Just now, it had also rushed to the front and killed a top expert. Now, it sat down and gasped for breath. As expected, its blood energy wasn't abundant, and it was extremely weak. It was extremely tired. However, it still had a great killing move. Who was it? It was a giant in the field of meticulous research. Although it was sometimes effective, it still had to be done at different times. At the very least, it was extremely reliable at the moment. Because it was extremely serious, it had long since arranged a large-scale killing domain in secret. Now it was erupting. It sat at the center of the domain and roared, "Kill!" Immediately, explosions rang out amidst rumbling sounds. Along the way, the Soul River creatures died in large numbers. It was like a heavenly blade reaping scarecrows. A row of glaring beams of light rotated over and harvested a large area, cutting down everything in its way. At this time, the Saint Emperor's condition was indeed not right. He was gradually becoming muddle-headed and even dissipating. At this time, he was pouring his entire body's divine radiance into his child's body. What could the black dog say? It could only watch from the front and pant in pain. "I'm not here to begin with. Child, live." The Saint Emperor's shadow spoke. Was he consoling the black dog, or was he asking it to take care of the little sacred ape? Very well. Although the black dog knew that the dead were dead and couldn't be saved, it could only reply like this. It didn't want to make the Saint Emperor's shadow sad. I'm going to kill all of you. At this time, the black dog roared angrily and stood up again. It was going to slaughter its way to the end of the Soul River. It was activating the last of its true blood. Although the blood in its body was almost used up and not even a drop of blood flowed out of its wounds, it still activated it. In an instant, its body expanded and its strength increased by a large margin. Everyone was shocked. Did this dog not want to live? It was already old and at the end of its life, yet it dared to fight in its peak state? Boom! Beams of light surged into the sky. The black dog went crazy and slapped a large group of Soul River creatures to death with a single paw. It advanced forward courageously and killed the group of enemies. In a daze, many figures appeared around it. There was an indomitable giant ape, an incomparably tyrannical human expert with overflowing blood energy, a celestial emperor soaring through the sky and shaking the myriad realms, and an empress descending into the mortal world to sweep through the Soul River and the vile land. These were all people it had visualized. It missed these old friends and the era when it fought shoulder to shoulder with them. Now, it was guided by its emotions and had manifested them all. This was extremely terrifying. In a daze, it seemed to have obtained a new life. Its declining true blood shone and its combat strength increased continuously. "Dog, you have to live!" roared the decayed corpse. It was worried that it would die soon if it continued to exhaust itself like this. "Old friends, where are your souls?" growled the black dog. It carried the Emperor's bell and strode forward. It was not afraid of dying in battle and charged forward. The bell waves exploded, shaking the world in an instant and blasting through everything in its way. The boundless army was sent flying like paper and burned to ashes. "Uncle Master, I'm here. I'm still alive." A bald man came and barged into this place. He was dirty and his clothes were ragged. His body was somewhat damaged. This was definitely caused by the aftermath of a supreme creature's technique in the past. It was difficult to completely remove these injuries. "It's you. Good. Good. Good." The black dog and the decayed corpse were both shocked, delighted, and excited. They had encountered another living old friend. There was no better news than this. Their hearts were instantly filled with warmth and endless joy. "It's good that you're alive," said the black dog. "I was too far away and had to cross heavens after heavens to get here. Thankfully, I'm not late." After the bald man arrived, he didn't waste any words and directly began a massacre. He roared, "Even though I've always been merciful, it still depends on who I'm dealing with. Today, I'm in charge of killing. One thought to become a Buddha, one thought to become a great demon. Kill." Countless flower petals fluttered in the air, blossoming around him. Then, they all turned into his appearance and blasted forward, slaughtering everything in their path. The black dog cried and laughed, feeling sentimental. Finally, a living person appeared. Who else could return to this world? "Is there anyone else?" the black dog asked hopefully. "There shouldn't be anyone else," the bald man replied softly. His voice was low and depressed, and then it all erupted into a single word. "Kill!" In the distance, Lee appeared and disappeared like a ghost, killing off a few extremely powerful Soul River creatures. Moreover, he was also helping the people on his side to attack the enemy. Disgraceful! On the Soul River side, an expert was furious. Pung! Not long after he finished cursing, he was ambushed. He was very far away, but he was struck by a wondrous technique, and the back of his head was almost penetrated. The battle situation was very advantageous to the black dog, Nine Daos, and the others. At this time, they were fighting until the Soul River creatures were afraid. They were actually a bit afraid. Blood flowed like rivers, and there were countless casualties. However, at this time, something bad happened. A sigh came from the Soul River terminus, shocking everyone to the point where their blood was boiling and their minds were ringing. Following that, a very vague and faint, but also rich in energy and matchless magic power reached out. It was slow but powerful as it slammed down on the battlefield. At this moment, everyone was horrified. Had an unimaginable creature awakened in the Soul River terminus? After fighting for so long, it still didn't appear. I thought it was already dead, but now it actually came out. Is it fake, or is it real? Nine Da's eyes all stood up. At this moment, the monkey, who was originally in a daze and was relying on his instincts to take care of the little Saint Ape, suddenly moved. He lifted his head and grabbed his metal cudgel, rushing towards the gigantic palm. Monkey, don't be reckless. I still have a backup plan that might be able to flatten this place. The black dog shouted, wanting to stop the sacred emperor's shadow. There's no need, I've finally awakened. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time. I've always been waiting to unleash the strongest attack of my life. Let's fight to our heart's content. Who am I? I'm from the Battle Saint tribe. I was born to fight, and even if I die, I want to die in the final battle. Sadly, I'm incomplete and am only a shadow. Do your best and unleash your strongest attack. The monkey roared. He walked forward with great strides, wielding his metal cudgel with both hands. After that, he leaped up. Boom! The metal cudgel glowed, connecting the heavens and earth, piercing through the heavens. Nothing could obstruct it. The golden Saint Ape was burning, and a blinding light erupted from it. After that, with a rumbling sound, it wielded the metal cudgel with both hands and smashed it towards the gigantic palm. Stay your hand. There's no need for you to die yet. Jiui shouted. This is my choice. I was originally about to dissipate. Now this is the strongest battle. I'll act according to my nature. In such a world, there's no freedom. Why should I, an afterimage, struggle on while at death's door? Fight! A loud roar rang out, reverberating through the 10,000 worlds. A heavenly connecting Saint Ape, an expert with golden fur all over his body, brandished his metal cudgel, raising it to its limits and smashing it over. He fought against an unimaginable existence alone. Extremely resplendent, boundless light illuminated the world. The battle intent of the sacred ape filled the world. His roar was everywhere. He was the brother of the Heaven Emperor. When he was young, he once walked side by side with the Heaven Emperor and wasn't much weaker. He bitterly cultivated for countless years and was almost about to step onto the Heaven Emperor's path. But even so, what could he do? He had boundless regrets. He couldn't protect his child, couldn't calm the great chaos. Right now, he only wished for this final battle. Raising it to its limits, the sacred ape incinerated all energy and blasted out its strongest attack. Boom! At this moment, even the heavens were trembling. True blood scattered outwards. That large hand was actually torn apart, raised high into the air by the metal cudgel. Then, it was pierced through by the other end of the metal cudgel, as if an exceptional spear had pierced through that palm. Blood scattered outwards. The heavens rumbled and the 10,000 worlds trembled. The large hand gradually faded away, leaving behind some bloodstains. The sacred emperor destroyed that large hand. This type of battle accomplishment was simply heaven-defying. In the outside world, all of the experts were stupefied. Their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Do you see? This is my brother. The black dog cried out. He knew that he was going to be separated forever, never to see him again. There was something wrong with that creature. It was blasted back, but it was still an unimaginable existence after all. How could it not pay the price to repel that large blurry hand? The monkey became faint. Its body broke apart, about to completely dissipate. The metal cudgel pierced through that hand, dripping with blood. Meanwhile, the cudgel itself was also corroded, breaking apart inch by inch. Then, it exploded. The monkey retreated, using the last of its strength to turn around. It took a step to arrive before its child, doing its best to prevent itself from collapsing. In its final moments, it poured all of the divine matter left in its body into the little sacred ape's body. "Monkey, hold on. I'll save you!" The black dog roared. The decayed corpse also roared, rushing over. "I'll die, he'll live." These were the final words of the sacred emperor's figure. As he looked at his child, he was incomparably resolute. These were his final words. All of his remaining essence was poured into the little ape's body. Then, he collapsed, disappearing. The golden rain of light suddenly exploded. "Ah!" The black dog cried out loudly, its face covered in tears. The metal cudgel disappeared, the monkey disappeared. Its final wish would never be seen again, just like that. "Come back to life!" The decayed corpse roared. 9 Dowie also rushed over, but they were powerless to reverse the situation. "Uncle Sacred Emperor!" The bald male wept loudly, incomparably sorrowful. Then, he rushed over to hug the little sacred ape, calling out to his brother. Li walked up, handing over a few ancestral symbol papers to the black dog, saying, "I'll only keep one, the rest are for you." Then Li added, "Too few, not enough. Perhaps 100 or even 500 will do. Reviving a powerful sacred emperor who has disappeared, no longer exists, and has become nothingness is too difficult. I want 1,000 of them." The black dog suddenly stood up, grabbed 9 Dowie's arm and roared, "I'm begging you, I want all of them, find all of them. 1,000. Number 9 was not angry, he understood this kind of pain. So what if there really were 1,000? They probably wouldn't be able to save the sacred emperor. He had disappeared, turned into nothingness, and would never appear again. However, could he refute? Would he reveal the bloody truth? Perhaps temporarily agreeing was the only choice. Everyone always had hope. What if the sacred emperor really did reappear one day? In this world, many people want to see that monkey reappear. Number 9 sighed. "My brother, the monkey, he shouldn't have died. He will come back, he will appear alive." The black dog cried, choking with tears. It trembled as it looked up at the sky. "Where is his soul?" Chapter 1476. Such a powerful monkey, the most powerful holy emperor in the history of the battle race, someone who had once fought shoulder to shoulder with the Sky Emperor, died in battle just like that, leaving nothing behind. The afterimage exploded, and from then on, it disappeared, never to be seen again. The heavens were dripping with blood, and the heavens' cries shocked the 10,000 worlds. The black dog, the rotten corpse, and the 9 Daos had experienced all kinds of perilous situations and seen life and death, but now they were still incomparably sorrowful and emotional. The black dog released a low roar, raising its head towards the sky. It reached out its large paw, wanting to grab something, but in the end it could only grab empty air. The unyielding monkey never lowered its head, never retreated. Even if it was only an afterimage, it still wanted to end its life in battle, unyielding and unyielding. If this world wasn't free, it would rather die in battle. That iron cudgel that supported the heavens also exploded under its large bleeding hand. The weapon that accompanied it for its entire life was destroyed. Everything related to the monkey no longer existed, never to be found again. "Monkey!" The rotten corpse roared. That kind of anger, that kind of sorrow and grief, resounded through the heavens and earth. The black dog seemed to have aged in an instant. Its body was stooped, its eyes turbid, and it seemed to have lost some kind of vitality. It staggered, hugging that red-furred monster. That was the Holy Emperor's own son, his only son. Even though his entire body was covered in red corpse hair, his body rotting and filled with an inauspicious aura, the black dog and the others still treated him like a rare treasure, fearing that they would injure him. "Child, little monkey!" The black dog shed tears. The little holy ape that had been placed on the Sky Emperor's shoulder was now in such a miserable state. And that father of his, even before death, couldn't let go of him. I die, he lives. These were the Holy Emperor's final words, powerful and concise. There were only 4 words. Even a tyrannical expert had worries. The peerless Holy Emperor never knew what weakness was, but in the end, he still felt reluctance. Even though he was muddle-headed, he still couldn't let go of this child. I want to save him. The black dog's heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. It hugged the monkey's only child. At the side, the bald man with tattered clothes and great Tao injuries silently clenched his fists. The little holy ape was his brother. In the past they had laughed and joked together, but when they met again it was such a scene. The blue seas turned into mulberry fields, things remained the same, but people had changed. Tears flowed down his face. Suddenly a shocking change occurred. The Saint Emperor's only son began to struggle violently, a subconscious growl escaping from his mouth. The eyes of fire and gold that his father had taken back fell out. Child. The black dog, the carrion corpse, and the others were all nervous and frightened. They quickly moved to protect him. To them, this was a priceless treasure. Nothing could compare to it. It was the only remaining bloodline of the brothers, and even if they could never save it, they couldn't allow it to be lost. The little sacred ape's eye sockets were empty, and at this moment, tears of blood flowed out. He continuously released low roars, his 3 heads and 6 arms trembling. He wanted to struggle free. Little monkey! Child! Could it be that the corpse of the little sacred ape still had some kind of instinct? Was it crying? He seemed to know that his father had died, and now tears of blood were flowing. This made people sad. Brother! The bald male walked up and grabbed his arm. His heart was in great pain, feeling bad for him. The Holy Emperor's most powerful bloodline had once shone with boundless brilliance, yet in the end, it had fallen to such a state. Roar! The little sacred ape's golden eyes fell, and blood flowed out from its empty eye sockets. In the end, it even released a dense black mist. He had completely lost control, releasing terrifying beastly roars. He had no consciousness, no self, and was only a corpse that was being refined. His remaining instincts were also being erased, and there wasn't much left. In the end, a sphere of dazzling light erupted from within his body. It was incomparably divine, turning into a rain of light that cleansed his inauspicious and decaying flesh. A lot of the black mist was actually forced out of his body. The dense and strange substance surged, and with chi-chi sounds, quite a bit of it dissipated. Within the little sacred ape's body, it was as if several dozen sun stars were burning, purifying his corpse and attacking the black mist, cleansing the terrifying decaying blood within. That rain of light was a type of divine substance left behind by the Holy Emperor before his death. Hong. Right at this time, the little sacred ape's body began to burn fiercely. Fiery light rushed into the heavens, and a terrifying sound was transmitted from within his body. It was as if a malicious spirit was screaming miserably, but also like the roar of a world-destroying vicious beast that made one's heart tremble. What was that? Black blood flowed out from his eye socket. His entire body was cracking apart, and he unconsciously opened his mouth to cry out. Then, he began to shatter, and his body was on the verge of collapse. The black dog, the rotten corpse, and the others felt like their eyes were going to split open. They quickly suppressed it and used all methods to help him stabilize his body. They definitely couldn't allow something like this to happen. The monkey was dead. Was his only child also going to be burned to ashes? Chi. Dazzling light blossomed, extending out from the cracks on the little sacred ape's body. More black blood splashed out, and a large amount of mist pervaded the air. Wait, don't stop him! The black dog suddenly spoke. It seemed to have thought of something, and its expression was incomparably nervous as it stared at the little sacred ape. At the same time, the others also seemed to have thought of something. They all stopped and stood guard at the side. Is this the power of that person from the divine Silkworm Ridge? Even Nine Dowie was bewildered. The Holy Emperor lost his father at a young age, and there were only 2 of them left in their clan. The other was his missing uncle, who had left for a faraway place. When he was young, he had an engagement with a certain clan's princess, and the relationship between the 2 clans was exceptionally close. Since ancient times, there was a saying that a divine silkworm that surpassed 10 transformations would defy the heavens. In reality, 10 transformations was already very powerful. Even in the end of days, it could turn the impossible into the possible. Once it surpassed 10 transformations, it would truly be unimaginable. This was especially the case when this type of heavenly art seemed to have limitless potential. Because of his uncle, the Holy Emperor had cultivated this type of art before. The substance that was inserted into the little sacred ape's body should be that type of rebirth energy. Gotcha! Sure enough, the little sacred ape's body released a crisp sound. All of the bones in its body were breaking, and bone marrow splashed in all directions. Its entire body was convulsing. As for its fur and other parts, they all fell off. The scene was terrifying, and its rotting body was terrifying. Everyone's breathing stopped. This was the Holy Emperor's trump card. Originally, he might have been able to revive because of this, but now it was given to his child. Not good. Black blood flowed out from the little sacred ape's 7 apertures. Its body was burning from the inside out. Its entire body was in pieces, and it was about to completely break apart. During this process, there was no movement from the soul river. That indistinct large hand was pierced through by the metal rod. After the blood scattered outwards, it slowly dimmed and disappeared. It was clear that there was something wrong with the depths of the soul river. When that large hand appeared, it was a bit indistinct and indistinct. Now, it was even more proof that something was wrong with this place. Otherwise, if there really was an unmatched existence in perfect condition, once it appeared, who could face it? The Soul River creatures backed up. This place immediately became extremely quiet. The experts in the great army were all terrified. Such a powerful ancient crow was torn apart by someone, and the casualties were too great. Of course, the most important thing was that large hand. It was actually pierced through, blood splashing through the void. This truly made them shiver inwardly. Even that type of existence was injured? Just like that, the stalemate lasted for a very long time. The little sacred ape's body surged with a sphere of dazzling light. Tao ancestor matter surged, and undying power expanded. Then, its flesh and shattered bones continuously fell off. It was wrapped within a sphere of light, and then it unexpectedly quickly shrunk. It turned into a true child that was only a few years old. Come back to life! The black dog roared with a low voice. In the end, the little sacred ape no longer had 3 heads and 6 arms. It retracted the divine ability magical projection that it maintained when it died in battle back then, recovering its head and arms appearance. Unfortunately, that type of undying matter was battered by the black blood and inauspicious matter. In the end, it scattered, but it didn't change the vitality of its body. In the end, it only became smaller. Its body was still covered in red corpse hair, and black blood flowed out from its eyes. Its flesh was rotting, but it wasn't enough to defy the heavens. You've returned to your past self. The decayed corpse stroked the young sacred ape. The black dog carried it, its voice hoarse, body stoop. Back then, when the little sacred ape was still so young, it was taken care of by everyone in Celestial Court, treated like a treasure. Now, when it suddenly looked back, the past and present seemed like a dream. That resplendent great world was destroyed, everything changed. The black dog was unwilling, and the decayed corpse also sighed lightly. They fought. What was the reason? They only wanted the heavens to continue existing, to eliminate the inauspicious, to quell the chaos. In the end, how many of us are left? The bald male also said softly, feeling quite emotional. How could the celestial court that flourished for a time suddenly collapse? The few people that were left all became wandering ghosts. This was especially the case when the little sacred ape fell to such a state. It deeply hurt these people. They worked hard to survive, all for the sake of proving that that era hadn't been completely destroyed. However, there were only 2 or 3 of them left, making them feel even more terrible. Right now, a rain of blood poured down from the heavens. This was the strange scene of the heavens weeping after the death of the Holy Emperor. There was even the scene of the Tao ancestor's corpse falling. As for the scene of the immortal king falling, it was also reflected everywhere. The wind and clouds surged violently, and the heavens rumbled. In the outside world, after many people recognized that it was the legendary monkey who used the iron club to explode the Soul River, their hearts trembled violently, all of them feeling something. Could it be that the celestial court would appear again? The people of the past hadn't all died, and one day, there would be a day when they would conquer the wretched earth again? Wipe out all the sources of chaos? The black dog was hunchbacked. It was originally standing upright, but now it seemed to have aged 100,000 years. It carried the little sacred ape, looked at Jiudaui, and then bowed to him. It was almost sticking to the ground, its eyes completely red. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, it was so wild and untamed that it would never act like this. But now, he was very serious and also very solemn. He said, "Monkey, I only had this one child. Before he died, he entrusted me with only 4 words. They weighed more than millions and millions of caddies, so heavy that I couldn't breathe." Jiudaui quickly pulled it up and said, "I'll think of a way." "Don't think about it, I want 2,000 talisman papers," said the black dog. Jiudaui, if this was a different situation and a different creature said this to him, he would not say a word and immediately attack. Even if it was a human head, he would beat it into a dog's head. Then, he would tell it that it was crazy. But now, how was Jiudaui going to open his mouth and get angry? He forced his face not to darken and not to twitch. In the end, Jiudaui sighed. He was also very sad. If there was a way, would he not want to save them? The Holy Emperor and his son were worth using all means and power to save. But they were really dead, especially the Holy Emperor. His body and soul were destroyed, and even his last thoughts dissipated. His weapon exploded, and his afterimages were destroyed in battle. How could they be saved? Jiudaui looked up at the sky. He also thought of his own era. There was another celestial court, even more ancient than the black dog's celestial court. Perhaps it could be considered a predecessor. For a moment, the corners of his eyes burned. Although he was in human skin and had no flesh and blood, he still wanted to cry. "I used to have a group of brothers and uncles, but they're all dead. There was a king who ruled the world for 10 generations, a supreme being who could split the heavens." Jiudaui suppressed his sadness and shook his head with a sigh. Every era did not have the sadness of every era. This was the ups and downs of the great world. Who could escape? He comforted the black dog and the rotten corpse, saying, "Even that person's disciples, the honored master's son, brothers and friends, didn't they all die?" Although he wiped out all the enemies he could find, he still went on his way alone. He sat silently on the bronze coffin, watching the blood-stained heavenly realms. He crossed over, leaving behind a lonely shadow as he killed his way into the unknown and unreachable depths. Jiudaui was a bit sad. That person did not let down everyone, but he did not let down the people around him. He lived alone with a beautiful woman, and many years passed without him returning. He left the people around him behind. There was once a woman who cried and asked him to take care of their only child, but in the end, there was nothing left. He sacrificed his son, his beautiful woman left, and his brothers fell. But what choice did he have? If he did not become an emperor, the realms would die. After he became an emperor, he swept away all his enemies, but he could not even shed a tear. In the end, he only left behind a shadow that gradually faded away. Even the future generations' memories of him were gone, and he was cut off from everyone's hearts. Jiudaui did not know what that person did, what price he paid, and why it was like this. Even his heart was blurred. Only by looking at some old objects could he retain those memories and remember that he once existed. The rotten corpse was also silent and lost. Not only was he close to the black dog in this life, but he also had a great relationship with the person Jiudaoi spoke of. However, his memories were blurred. Everything about that person faded day by day, and even someone as strong as him could not retain them. But he knew that they were once very close. "Are you trying to tell me in a roundabout way that you can't save him?" asked the black dog. Then the black dog went crazy. He only repeated one sentence: "I want to save them, I want to save this child." Did he really think that there were still 2,000 talismans in this world? Jiudaoi was also going crazy, but he could only bite the bullet and say that he could save him, and that he would give it to him. Otherwise, if the enemy didn't kill him, the black dog would go crazy. As expected, there was something wrong with the black dog's state. He cried and laughed and cried, and then shouted, "Kill!" He became excited. Right now, he wanted to kill the enemy more than ever. At the same time, it was as if he was hypnotizing himself. He felt that the little sacred ape could be saved, that the monkey would reappear. In order to preserve this beautiful feeling, he pressed forward courageously, crazily killing the enemy. Corpses fell in large amount. The great battle of the Soul River began again. This time, the black dog first placed the little sacred ape next to the emperor corpse. He was incomparably brave, throwing caution to the wind. "Grandsons, all of you, come over here. Let Grandpa see how many of the monsters from back then are left. Are you courting death?" At the end of the Soul River, there were naturally creatures who were fearless. From the bottom of their hearts, they had always been quite confident. After all, how many great eras had passed? They hadn't been wiped out. It could even be said that the existence of the heavens was all under their control. The sounds of metal clashing and grinding rang out. A bull-headed monster with a human torso appeared, but it was even more powerful, like a giant. Apart from this, it had blood-pink wings, and its entire body was covered in red fur. When it stepped on the ground, even the ground trembled slightly. Rumble! It soared into the sky and landed on the battlefield of the emperors. "Although this corpse monster of yours has gained intelligence, I can tell from your appearance that it was caused by the corrosion of inauspicious matter. Forgetting your past life means betrayal," the black dog shouted. "Take care of yourself. Death is at hand." The words of the bull-headed monster were incomparably cold. Its pupils were emitting bloody light, and its entire body was surging with murderous intent. The void exploded. Its energy was too tyrannical and incomparable. "Corpse monster, this emperor will directly send you on your way. I'm not in the mood to deal with you. Die!" The dog emperor shouted. Dong! With the sound of a bell ringing, the large bell on the battlefield soared into the sky. However, the sword edge that was suppressed by it also flew away with a whoosh, disappearing into the wretched earth. Boom! The large bell rumbled, emitting dazzling light. Bell waves exploded like a tsunami, sweeping forward. There were thousands of bell waves that were even more terrifying than the sword light. This time, the dog emperor went all out. In order to kill this powerful enemy in one strike, it could be said that it was throwing caution to the wind. Its blood was burning, and its soul light was boiling. It activated the emperor's bell. There was simply nothing it couldn't kill. That powerful bull-headed monster was originally very powerful. Its aura was intimidating, and even the void became unstable as it stood there. It continuously cracked and collapsed, but now its expression changed. It turned around and fled. However, everything was too late. The bell waves were like a heavenly sword that sliced through time and all ages. It truly activated a few wisps of Emperor's might, blasting tens of thousands of creatures. That bull-headed monster seemed to have aged millions and millions of years. It was incomparably old, and then it exploded, shattering on the spot. Both its body and spirit were destroyed. Not only that, but behind it, a large army was like a sand castle under the tide of the bell waves. It silently collapsed and disappeared. This emperor is going to stake it all today. I want to see if there are any unparalleled demons still slumbering here. The black dog roared. Not long ago, the monkey brandished the iron cudgel and unleashed a peerless attack, using the iron cudgel to pierce through the large blurry hand. However, the owner of that hand didn't show up and disappeared on its own. This already made everyone suspect that this wasn't the attack of a true creature, but rather some type of method. It was produced by the great Tao traces left behind by an unparalleled creature in the past. That was why, while the dog emperor and decayed corpse were shocked, furious, and grieving, they believed more and more that they might truly be able to break through this place and slaughter a large half of Soul River. Dang! The bell waves shook the world, ringing through the heavens above and earth below. The black dog unleashed a slaughter in all directions, rushing in the direction of the ultimate vile land. A cold smile hung from the corners of its mouth. It opened its large mouth, and its damaged canine teeth shone, making all of the original creatures with spiritual intelligence in Soul River shiver in fear. This dog has gone mad, smiling so sinisterly. It is the true unparalleled great demon. Get rid of it. It's too crazy. It killed so many of our experts. A few original creatures cried out from beside Soul River. When the Emperor's bell shook, it swept through all directions, truly blasting everything apart. Even the Emperor battlefield was shaking and rumbling, about to collapse. Chi. The sword edge the ancient crow had previously used appeared again. Apart from this, the damaged shield the peacock used by the 9 Daos previously also appeared, blocking the Emperor's bell together. The black dog laughed. There was only a single word from its mouth. Kill. It wanted to get revenge for the monkey, to get revenge for its old friends who died at Soul River. It used its declining body to activate the Emperor's bell, advancing forward, slaughtering everything in its path. It truly hoped that there were unmatched existences struggling at death's door, giving it a chance to personally face them. Then, it would use the trump card the Celestial Emperor left for it to try and slaughter an unmatched existence. There was only that one chance, and it was left for the last. That was why, even if it had to stake its old life, it still had to advance and definitely wouldn't retreat. The monkey is unyielding, not letting sand in its eyes, but this Emperor isn't a giant that's afraid of trouble. It cried out loudly. At this time, the decayed corpse naturally also took action, moving side by side with it, slaughtering forward. Martial uncle, wait for me. The bald male left the little sacred ape's place, taking large steps, chasing after them. Kill. The 9 Daos also held a spear, his gray hair scattered about, eyes shooting out cold lightning. He was like a demon lord again, his killing intent overflowing into the heavens as he pressed towards the ultimate Soul River. Those who violate the Soul River die. At this time, a long blade hacked apart heaven and earth, whistling through the air as it hacked down explosively. Blade energy was endless, as if it came from outer space, wishing to compare to the heavens. The 9 Daos walked forward, a fist smashing over. It was as if stars were breaking apart, a great explosion taking place in front of them. A 6-headed monster stepped into the battlefield. It had the body of a male lion, mane extending from its neck down to its stomach. The most terrifying thing was that it had 6 heads, respectively ox, dragon, pung, elephant, dog, and lion. When the bald male saw this ancient beast, his eyes immediately became red. This was an extremely savage Soul River creature from the past, previously tearing apart large amounts of Heavenly Court's troops, all of them devoured by it. It was bloody and savage, the well-known 6-headed beast, its might previously shaking the world. You bastard, you are still alive after all. Today, this old one will definitely skin you alive. The decayed corpse said coldly. Its body shone, but waves of darkness aura curled up around it, as if it came from the underworld. The six-headed beast was indeed terrifying, the aura it spat out completely turning into blade radiance. It naturally possessed exceptional body divine abilities, and its 6 heads could allow it to display 6 great divine abilities. How pitiful! Only a few of you are left of the wandering ghosts from back then, and you still dare to come? The Dog Emperor said, "You 6-headed bastard, Grandpa will kill you." Back then, if it was just a smelly ditch here, would it have been able to stop us? It would have long been overturned by the celestial Dharch suppression. "Kill, I'll cut off its 6 heads." The decayed corpse rushed over. The black dog also rushed forward, its 2 hind legs on the ground as it walked on its hind legs. It raised the large bell and blasted forward. However, there was also a monster that obstructed it. It was a decaying humanoid creature, and its entire body was wrapped in iron chains, as if it was an unrivaled malicious spirit that had been bound. Its entire body was covered in incomparably thick black fur, as if it was restricted even in the Soul River. It was an extremely dangerous creature with shackles on it. However, at this time, the shackles were undone. With a roar, it grabbed the short sword that Guya had used before, turned into a streak of black light, and charged straight at the Dog Emperor. "Who killed my martial uncle? Get over here and accept your death." At this time, a white peacock appeared. It was incomparably ferocious, as if a white star was burning, illuminating the world. It stared at Jiudawi, and its hostility rose to the sky. Does it have something to do with the Peacock Soul Mother again? 9 Paths frowned. "That's my master. Not long ago, Jiudawi killed the brother of the Peacock Soul Mother. Now, the disciple of the Soul Mother had come. This bloodline was very strong. In reality, the Peacock Spirit Mother's status was extremely high, mainly because it had a good son. Back then, he almost became an unmatched creature, becoming one of the masters of the Soul River. With such a heaven-defying child, it was revered as the Mother Soul. However, it was a pity that its quasi-supreme child was crippled, sunk into the Soul River for countless years, and even now, there were no signs of activity. However, this bloodline's status didn't decrease, it was still very high. Now, Peacock Soul Mother's disciple walked out, so he naturally wasn't simple. From a certain perspective, this was the junior brother of that expert who almost became an unmatched expert back then. It was obvious that the descendants of this bloodline were stronger than the previous generation. For example, the Soul Mother's eldest son was stronger than herself, and this disciple was stronger than Soul Mother's brother. There's nothing more to say. This time, I'll stab you to death. Jiudawi opened his mouth and raised his tattered spear, stabbing it into the sky. With a bang, the sky exploded, and primal chaos energy shrouded the surroundings. A great battle erupted once again. Li Su attacked, killing his way into the creatures of the Soul River Plain. He turned back and said, "Everyone, if you continue to hold back, I reckon you'll all die here." Kill. Tai Yi's expression was solemn, and his body blossomed with a rain of light. However, the rain of light carried a bloody stench as it wrapped around him and swept through the creatures. The others had solemn expressions, and their bodies were covered in blood. Some of it was their own, and some of it was their enemies. "Everyone, explode. Otherwise, you'll die here. If you get eaten by the monsters here, or even fall into the Soul River and become one of them, that would be very sad," the master of the Black Blood Research Institute said. At this moment, he was clearly different. Behind him, there was a blurry path that led to an unknown place. However, one could vaguely see strands of powerful energy rushing over and entering his body. "Kill!" he shouted, and he pounced into the crowd of dried corpses and primitive creatures, directly killing them. His battle prowess soared. Roar! Another person roared. Behind him, there was also a blurry path that led to him. In the end, the experts from the underground world all erupted. Some of them even had blurry figures behind them, as if they were sitting cross-legged in the distance, and releasing terrifying energy. The legend had come true. There had always been a rumor that the master of the Black Blood Research Institute, Tai Heng, and the others were the source of darkness in the underground world. It was said that there might be some unknown power behind them. It was said that there were unfathomable beings behind them, sitting in an unknown world and transmitting energy to them. Some people said that they might be the remains of their past life. Others said that they were experts on the verge of death who had lived for several epochs. They were unexpectedly controlled by a few people, like plants that had taken root and absorbed the power of those old monsters. That was why they could become the source of darkness in the underground world. Now, it was finally proven that there was indeed a mysterious path behind them, a demonic world, and a blurry figure that could give them power. Boom! Tai Yi and Tai Heng, the master of the Black Blood Research Institute, and the martial madman were all fighting until their eyes were red and they were going crazy. They couldn't afford to hold back. Otherwise, they would be drowned by the Soul River army and beaten to a pulp by the terrifying experts that rushed over. As expected, one old ghost after another, all of them are rich and not good people. There's a big problem with their roots, and they're all connected to some unknown world, Li Su said. He clenched his teeth and felt a bit regretful that he wasn't fast enough. He hadn't finished looting those people's belongings. At the very least, he hadn't gone to the extreme north yet. The thing he was looking for might be related to the world behind those people, and there might be clues in those ancient worlds. He didn't care anymore. Apart from the martial madman, he had emptied the other people's nests. He would go back and study the spoils of war and slowly ponder over it. Perhaps there would be a great discovery. When the time came, he didn't believe that he couldn't find it by following the map. At this time, even 9 Paths, the rotten corpse, and the bald man were astonished. Those people were the first to go crazy. The martial emperor, Tai Yi, and the others had all gone crazy. After receiving the support of the secret force, these people fell into a state of madness and were incomparably eager to fight. Now, no one would be able to stop them even if they shouted or tried to stop them. The creatures of the Soul River screamed miserably. All kinds of beast heads, bird wings, and humanoid creatures' arms and legs flew in all directions, and blood was everywhere. They were going crazy. The few people cried out and roared loudly. They were actually excited from the battle. Even if they were pierced by weapons, it didn't matter. They still rushed forward with all their might and fought with all their might. Now, the blurry shadows behind them were becoming more and more solid, as if they were crossing over from some distant end of the world. Were they absorbing other people's Tao fruits, or their own remains from their past lives? It was hard to tell. In any case, they had obtained great power and support. Even the black dog couldn't help but say, "I say, you little bastards, calm down and don't go crazy. What kind of place is this? Fight properly. I'm talking about you, why are you biting people? Be serious." It was even baring its teeth. Those fellows were a little crazy, and their eyes were bloodshot. They hugged one of the leaders of the Soul River, and bit it until its neck was bitten off. The black dog shouted, "Be serious. This might be a battle of world destruction. Blood is bound to flow, and blood will flow everywhere. What are you all doing? Don't bite people. Ouch, you almost bit me. Have you all gone crazy?" Chapter 1477. There was actually a day when the black dog was teaching others not to bite? The decayed corpse's expression was strange. He really wanted to say that he was often chased and bitten by you in the past. Even before the Celestial Emperor grew up, he was bitten by a dog every day. The bald man was also speechless. He opened his mouth, but he was too embarrassed to bring up this dark history. "Forgive me for being blunt, but it's good enough that you don't bite others." Nine Dowie dared to speak. When he was fighting the white peacock, he couldn't help but say this. The dog emperor flew into a rage out of humiliation. "Nonsense, this emperor never bites anyone." "Stop talking," the decayed corpse interrupted. He was originally very sad. Too many tragic things had happened today, and he wanted to cry out loud. But now, he was so angry that he almost laughed. The black dog ignored them and shouted at the martial emperor and the master of the Black Blood Research Institute. You, and you, stay away from me. Don't bite me. At this moment, those people had really gone crazy. They were fearless, and their bodies were covered in blood. There were countless corpses at their feet, and when they opened their mouths, their white teeth were dripping with blood. Chi. The martial emperor was very brave. With a millstone fist, he destroyed a large group. Following that, he erupted with the 7 deaths method, continuously splitting. His figure was everywhere, and behind him was an indescribable path. Black shadows appeared to support him. With a boom, Tai scattered the group of Soul River creatures in front of him, and he advanced while bathed in a rain of blood. They had caused such a huge commotion, and naturally, the experts of the Soul River creatures noticed them. Some of them had their eyes on them. The key was that these people were so excited that they even used their mouth. From time to time, they would bite a few tyrannical monsters to death, causing fear to both sides. The decayed corpse reminded loudly, "Don't treat the Soul River lightly. You can't eat the filthy things here, and they will kill you. They all contain inauspiciousness, so be careful of being corroded by the strange." Roar. The master of the Black Blood Research Institute bared his teeth. His white teeth were stained with blood, and he wanted to curse out loud. Who the hell was willing to eat them? Now, his body had gone crazy, and he couldn't control himself. The decayed corpse bared his teeth and said, "These old bastards are really savage. We have to go crazy for once and not lose to them. We have to quickly get rid of the super big guy here, and set an example for the old bastards." Tai cursed. "You're the old bastard. I've already lived for a whole era." He had lived from the end of the previous world until now. It was rather strenuous for the decayed corpse to fight the 6-headed beast. This was truly a terrifying and powerful enemy. The 6-headed beast was born with 6 great divine abilities. In the past, it rampaged on the battlefield, slaughtering a large number of celestial quartz troops and stirring up a storm of blood. The decayed corpse wanted nothing more than to kill him immediately. However, it was unrealistic for this body to kill all the enemies while talking and laughing. "My main soul has gone to barge into the ancient hell. Otherwise, I might have killed all of you today. Do you all think I'm weak? Your father was also one of the strongest back then. If the main soul was still around, there would definitely be a seat for me in Heavenly Emperor Tao. My main soul was lost. I even felt that he had split again. Damn it, what was he doing? Perhaps it was because he felt that the glory of the ancient hell was boundless, and he didn't want to return to it anymore. No matter what, since he's so disobedient, I'll remove him from the list. From now on, I'll be the sovereign." The zombies cursed as they fought. The dog emperor was bathed in a rain of blood. Large amounts of creatures from the Soul River around him died. He also went crazy from the slaughter. Those people were said to have gone crazy, but in reality, he was even crazier than them. His brother, the Holy Emperor, had died in battle, and only a rotting body remained of his nephew, the little holy ape. Today, he felt great sorrow and disappointment. When he thought of Celestial Quartz past brilliance, and then saw how it was now withering away, things remained the same, but the people had changed. He didn't need to be stimulated any further. He himself was going crazy. Hong. He continuously clashed with that dangerous monster that had its shackles unlocked. Energy surged, great Tao order continuously burning and breaking apart. Meanwhile, the great bell also clashed with the sword edge, releasing King Chang sounds. Countless Tao patterns shattered the heavens and stars flickered, continuously smashing down. This was a special region. The stars from outer space smashed down, making the water of the Soul River surge, engulfing heaven and earth. Countless soul lights shot out in all directions. If it wasn't a battlefield of emperors, the ground here would have long collapsed. Kill, this emperor has to eliminate you. Filthy monster, what soul river, what controlling the rise and fall of the heavens. This is nothing more than a land of filth. Creature from the source of the ominous and ominous, get out here. What unmatched? Just wait, this emperor will massacre you all. The black dog went crazy. It stood up, running faster and faster. It was using the extreme art Celestial Emperor passed down. Its body turned into a streak of light, gradually breaking through the restrictions of time. Later on, when it broke through the limit of speed, there were time fragments everywhere around it, turning into long blades, turning into long swords, killing enemies together with it. Roar! It had to be said that this black-furred monster was extremely terrifying. Even in this state, it still stopped the Dog Emperor's attacks. In reality, this monster was indeed ridiculously powerful, exceptionally dangerous. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been shackled by his own people, his body locked up, only unlocked when the battle began. If he went crazy, even the original creatures of the Soul River would be slaughtered, difficult to subdue. Now, when this monster's body shone, space even caved in, breaking apart into pieces. Those dimensional spatial slashes, those long blades of time, when they blasted his body, Clipchamp sounds rang out, sparks flying in all directions. This monster was too strong, even a bit exceeding the black dog's expectations. The terrifying attacks, the powerful destructive power, only left one wound after another on its body, flowing black blood, but it didn't fall, not being killed. The black dog was furious. If it couldn't even kill a monster, how could it flatten the Soul River? How could it kill those big guys? It knew that the root of all the problems was that its blood energy had dried up, its body was too weak, and it could no longer use the tyrannical magic arts from back then. This emperor is still young and hot-blooded, it's not time for me to fall yet, kill, it roared. Then, it visualized its old friends, recalling the glorious era of the past. One outstanding person after another, one stunning expert after another, all of them were reflected in its heart. Where are the old friends? It roared. This kind of visualization was extremely terrifying, as if some old friends were being summoned back, guiding their fallen souls back from the darkness. Kill! The black dog roared. At its side, the monkey's indistinct figure appeared, erupting with golden light, brandishing its cudgel, attacking together with the black dog. Then, a man full of golden energy appeared, looking disdainfully at the world. With a whistling sound, golden holy blood erupted, and chaotic chi exploded at the same time. The Emperor's son also came to fight. Boom! At this moment, the black dog became peerlessly powerful. Not to mention the other figures, just the two people following him alone were enough to tear the monster in front of them into pieces, and even the iron chains on its body were broken. However, this monster was indeed terrifying, instantly healing its body and recovering. This kind of creature could be reborn with a drop of blood, remolding its body, and was extremely difficult to kill. However, the black dog was already prepared. It looked up at the void, as if it saw countless old friends, and said with tears in its eyes, "You've always been here, by my side." With a boom, the person it visualized this time was clearly beyond everyone's imagination. That was a celestial emperor. It had to be said that it was really crazy daring to visualize an invincible being of this level. If things went wrong, its body wouldn't be able to bear it, and its body would explode. All it could rely on was that it had gone through countless trials and tribulations with that person, so it was too familiar and understood him too well. In a daze, it saw that person lying in a copper coffin, floating in the eternal unknown. But now, he directly stood up. Then, he crossed hundreds of millions of miles with one step and descended. Boom! Visualizing this person, it was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing, and all things in the world were about to wither. It was terrifying to the extreme. In an instant, the place exploded, and the void seemed to be unable to bear his figure. Even if it was only a vague shadow visualized by the black dog, far from the real body, this person was still too strong. Above his head was a cauldron, and below his feet was the boundless great light of the great path. He casually struck out, and a simple punch was thrown out. Boom! In front of him, the monster exploded, and even the shackles on its body, as well as the chains, were shattered by this punch, disintegrating as a whole. The incomparably dangerous monster was actually killed, completely dead. Nothing was left where it was. All the blood and ominous substances were burned to ashes, completely destroyed by that punch. However, the indistinct shadow also dissipated in an instant and disappeared. Indistinctly, there seemed to be the sound of the copper coffin trembling, but it was too far away, too faint, and it was difficult to determine whether it was an illusion or not. The black dog shook its head hard, then sat on the ground, opened its mouth, and panted heavily. It was exhausted. Visualizing an old friend and using such a wonderful technique had put too much strain on its body. "I'm tired, let me rest for a while." The dog emperor stuck out its tongue, and the blood mist around it was dim, but it was constantly being consumed and burned. Its chest rose and fell violently. That kind of visualization was too difficult, and it carried some kind of Tao mark, some kind of supreme artistic conception. But in the end, what was unleashed was still its own strength. Now it was fighting until it was almost out of oil. However, at least it got rid of a strong enemy. Not only that, but the surroundings were incomparably empty, completely empty, because everything had been blown up by that celestial emperor fist. Even places far away were affected, and countless corpses of the Soul River creatures were blasted into meat paste. The sudden burst of power from the Dog Emperor stunned all of the Soul River creatures. That phantom just now, that fist seal, made their bodies go cold, and they almost froze on the spot. They were truly petrified. In a daze, some of the leaders of the Soul River creatures seemed to have returned to the past. Back then, when the Celestial Emperor was conquering the Soul River, it had truly shocked everyone. Kill! In the end, there was an unruly expert among the Soul River creatures. With a loud shout, he ordered everyone to attack the black dog again. "Who dares touch my martial uncle?" The bald man charged over and was very worried. He stood guard beside the black dog and said, "Martial uncle, are you all right?" Now, the Dog Emperor was coughing up blood, and all of them were hard clots without any fresh blood. He sat on the ground, panting heavily. "I'm fine, I can still kill the enemy sitting here. Let's change the method and kill even more," said the black dog. With a boom, he once again used the domain method he was proficient in to attack. Moreover, after careful preparation just now, he had used domain runes to envelop the Emperor's bell and urged it to attack. This was terrifying. It could kill gods and Buddhas in its way. The creatures of the Soul River origin wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves as they slaughtered a large area in the blink of an eye. The bald man was relieved and went to kill the enemy again. Suddenly, a Soul River creature shuttled through the void, causing even time to become chaotic. It was very terrifying, and it was definitely a dark expert who was incomparably proficient in assassination. He was approaching the black dog, wanting to give it a fatal blow and kill it. However, at this moment, a black light that made people panic appeared behind him. It was holding a black spear, and with a puff, it pierced through the back of his head and nailed his soul light. This creature cried out miserably, and his body erupted with boundless light. He wanted to struggle free, but in the end, a mother gold seal smashed onto his body and caused him to explode. "You!" roar. This powerful creature was very unwilling before dying. He was incomparably furious and let out a final roar. Li Su spoke from within the black light, "Wherever there is injustice, there is me. I'm upright and plain-spoken. You've broken the rules." After killing this person, he turned around and ran, disappearing to the other side of the battlefield. In the distance, the eyes of a leader who was staring at this place were filled with cold light. He was incomparably furious. The Dog Emperor was dissatisfied and said, "What's there to be angry about? Do you really think you can kill me with a sneak attack? Who do you think I am? I'm an ancestor in this aspect. Grandpa's domains are densely packed here, and I've long since sensed that grandson. I'm just waiting for him to come and throw his life away. That black brat is trying to steal credit and kill." Before long, when the master of the Black Blood Research Institute was in danger, a long blade suddenly appeared and cut off the head of the Soul River creature. It was Li Su again. "I'll be there wherever I'm needed." He appeared and disappeared like a shadow, and it was impossible to guard against him. As expected, he was a professional at sneak attacks. This caused the Soul River creature's hair to stand on end. Before long, a terrifying expert who was fighting with the martial madman was directly smashed apart by the myriad mother golden seal. He turned into a bloody pulp and a rain of souls. He had been killed. At this moment, even the martial emperor found him pleasing to the eye and no longer thought about those trivial matters of the past. But the next moment, the martial madman's expression froze because he saw the object in Li Su's hand. What was that? The myriad mother golden seal. At this moment, the martial emperor was furious. Was that the myriad mother golden seal in his hand? Then, what was that thing under the coffin lid of the great Realm's coffin? "Black Bratly, I really want to kill you." Li Su had long since turned into a beam of black light and rushed to the other side to find another expert to sneak attack. He, on the other hand, was the source of all this strangeness and became a terrifying scene. "I'll be there wherever I'm needed." Both friend and foe were speechless. With a boom, the bald man's aura erupted and his energy split the sky. Then, he used the Three Pure Ones' secret technique and the Celestial Emperor's secret technique to superimpose his combat strength tenfold on his original foundation. His bravery was unstoppable, directly blasting apart his opponent, and then he continued to slaughter his way forward. Soon after, he killed 3 more powerful creatures that weren't weaker than the one from before. He then tore through that army, killing wave after wave of Soul River origin creatures. "Good!" the black dog cried out and finally laughed out loud. It was somewhat gratified but also a little sad. "I'll beat you up too." The rotten corpse roared and held the pickaxe with both hands. He slashed horizontally and vertically and blasted half of the 6-headed beast's body. Blood splattered into the void. At the same time, Number 9's blood boiled and his gray hair was disheveled. He flew into a rage and pierced through the white peacock. Soul blood flew thousands of feet away. However, at this time, the leading experts of the Soul River army, the 6-headed beast and the white peacock, suddenly disappeared from the battlefield, leaving only a portion of blood behind. This was too fast and silent. They could actually disappear without a trace under the final attack of 9 Dowie and the rotten corpse. This was truly terrifying and a little terrifying. "Retreat!" 9 Dowie and the black dog growled and called for the bald man and Li Su to not advance rashly and to retreat. In an instant, they gathered together and stared at the dark end of the Soul River. An indescribable aura filled the air and was incomparably terrifying. Gradually, this place became unimaginably terrifying. For a moment, the heavens trembled. The myriad worlds were about to fall and collapse. All the creatures in the heavens felt it and couldn't help but tremble. On the Soul River army's side, countless creatures knelt down and kowtowed in worship. "There really is a supreme being that came back to life?" the Black Emperor muttered. He was ringing the bell and using the Celestial Emperor's weapon to form a protective screen of light to protect everyone. Otherwise, just that kind of aura alone would be too terrifying. The destructive power was so great that it would make all creatures kneel down and kowtow. In the darkness, the inauspicious substance was so thick that it wouldn't dissolve. At the end of the Soul River's ultimate end, it was pitch black. One couldn't even see their fingers in front of them, and nothing could be seen clearly. Since ancient times, no one knew what was there or what was there. It was incomparably mysterious, and that was the source of all strangeness. Without the Emperor's bell, no one would be able to stand up straight here. At this moment, a terrifying light suddenly appeared at the end of the darkness. Upon closer inspection, one would feel their blood run cold. It was a giant eye that had suddenly opened. There was only darkness everywhere. Only a boundlessly large eye seemed to be suspended at the center of the dark universe. It was cold and emotionless, cruel and terrifying as it overlooked all life. Why bother? Why must you all die? A creature spoke as if it was sitting at the end of the eternal river of time and passing down a decree to all life. It was aloof, cold and emotionless. At this moment Qing Prefecture. No matter which direction Chu Feng walked in, a special path would appear under his feet. The patterns of the great Tao spread out on the surface of the road, and looking at the end, it actually always led to the Soul River. At the end of the Soul River, there really is a supreme being that has awakened. This emperor wants to wash the Soul River with blood. The black dog was furious. Perhaps it was time to attack the trump card that the celestial emperor had left behind. Jiu Daoyi was swift and decisive. He grabbed it and stopped it from acting rashly. Instead, he himself raised the battle spear that looked so tattered that it was almost rotten. Although Jiu Daoyi's words were slow, they were incomparably powerful. He said, "Do you know what this is? It's the weapon that person left behind. If you dare to attack, today, I'll call that person back and stab you to death with one finger. If your Soul River isn't convinced, why don't you give it a try?" Chapter 1478. Someone raised his spear and pointed it at the Supreme Being. The scene was silent and everyone was frozen in place. Since ancient times, how many people had dared to look down on the world and berate the Lord of the Soul River? If news of this got out, the people in the outside world would definitely find it hard to believe. Even the decayed corpse was stunned, its eyes wide open. Those 9 human skins were so arrogant and domineering, but could they really invite that person? The dog emperor's mouth was also dry, and he swallowed with difficulty. Intimidating the supreme being of the Soul River, needless to say, this matter was enough to be recorded in the history books. Tai Yi, the martial emperor, and the Black Blood Research Institute's master were all stunned. They thought they were arrogant enough in the world of the living, but after seeing Jiu Daoyi's attitude today, they truly understood what it meant to be a child in the presence of a great sorcerer. That human skin, had it gone crazy? What was it doing? It was directly challenging the Supreme Being. They felt that either Jiu Daoyi had gone crazy, or the world had gone crazy, or they had gone crazy, which was why they were seeing all sorts of illusions. The Dog Emperor's eyes were bright, and he was in a good mood. He had finally vented his anger. For so many years, he had always wanted to do this, but he never had the chance. Now, Jiu Daoyi had intimidated the Supreme Being of the Soul River, which made him feel extremely comfortable. The Dog Emperor held the little sacred ape in his arms, protecting it very tightly. He looked at Jiu Daoyi and said, "It's up to you now." The Dog Emperor felt that this old skin was quite reliable, and it never spoke empty words. His emotions surged. Could he really summon that person back? He couldn't help but want to roar. In truth, everyone present was incomparably excited, and their hearts were pounding violently. The decayed corpse's eyes shone with blue light as he stared fixedly at Jiu Daoyi. His heart filled with a strong desire to summon that person. Li Su's entire body was submerged in black light, and even someone as steady as him was breathing rapidly. Would he really be able to witness a miracle today? The martial emperor's eyes were green, and he was silent, but his chest was heaving up and down. The Black Blood Research Institute's master and the others were so excited that they couldn't control themselves. Their bodies trembled, and they felt like they were about to suffocate. Could it be that they could really see the gradual blurring of the legend, the existence that could no longer be seen in the human world, return? At this moment, all of the creatures in the Soul River were kneeling on the ground, shivering like lambs before a prehistoric giant dragon. Their bodies were shaking as they kowtowed in worship. The reliable Nine Daos stood rooted to the ground like a javelin. He raised his spear with one arm and pointed it at the Soul River terminus. He remained motionless, maintaining the same posture. On the count of 9, the summoning begins. The Dog Emperor was very relaxed and even had the mood to count down. It believed that the old man's skin was confident, so it was so calm, so peaceful, and didn't make a sound. The bald man was nervous, but his heart was also filled with anticipation. He looked at Jiudaoi with a face full of worship and sighed inwardly at how awesome the old man's skin was. He scolded Peerless as if he was scolding his own grandson, and after he was done, he still maintained his composure. How steady! Master, it's about time. Call someone back. Li Su secretly urged. Nine Daoi did not react. He stood there coolly, pointing his spear at the darkness. He did not move. Soul River Ultimate Vile Earth, that terrifying person with terrifying eyes seemed to be able to split heaven and earth apart, making space collapse, time distort, the heavens about to return to deathly stillness. In the darkness, nothing could be seen. Only those terrifying eyes were boundlessly frightening, cold and emotionless as they looked down on the heavens. Among the countless universes, only those eyes were eternal, and they were the only ones in the heavens. If not for the Emperor's bell's protection, no outsider could stand before the Soul River. At this moment, all things would be obliterated, and nothing would be left behind. One could see that the eyes in the depths of the boundless dark universe were breaking apart as they opened and closed. Everything that was hostile to them, including things with spirituality, would be destroyed. The divine sword left behind by the owner of the black blood research dimmed and then exploded, turning into strands of essence energy that were absorbed by that terrifying eye. Even a mother of gold weapon of this level was like this? One could see how terrifying it was. What would happen if it were a body of flesh and blood? It would probably immediately decay and turn into dust. With a single glance, all things would die, and the order of the heavens would be severed. It was unimaginable how powerful it was. But in this oppressive atmosphere, in this frightening background, the Dog Emperor was still very strong. What are you looking at? He was very displeased because that eye was too indifferent. It didn't speak or move, and it just looked down on everyone like an ancestor immortal sitting high in the 33 heavens looking down at the ants on the ground. The bald man gently pulled him, indicating that he shouldn't be impulsive. After all, he hadn't called that person back yet, and now was not the time to be frivolous. The Dog Emperor endured and did not make a sound. Otherwise, he would have scolded that huge eye again. One-eyed dragon, what are you looking at? Then, he turned his head to look at the reliable Jiui. Old Skin really could keep his composure and was still so cool. The Dog Emperor really wanted to say, "How old are you? Why are you acting cool? Master, it's about time. Don't pose any more." Li Su urged again. The reliable Jiui was as steady as Mount Tai. He didn't move an inch, and the tip of his spear was raised high without trembling. The decayed corpse was a little anxious, and he transmitted mentally, "I say, Old Skin, that's enough. Hurry up and call, or else something big is going to happen." After all, the Imperial Bell's defense couldn't be limitless. If it kept vibrating, there would be flaws. But none of this affected Jiui's steadiness in the slightest. The Dog Emperor also felt that something was wrong. Wasn't this old fellow being too calm? What time was it, and he was still pretending? Give some reaction. I've waited for a long time. Have you called that person back? A cold voice came from the ultimate land of the Soul River. The eye became even more terrifying, and countless patterns spread out around it. Even time was in chaos. One could even see that the river of time had appeared, and it was actually flowing in reverse. As for the countless laws and divine chains of order, they were like waves, burning and extinguishing in his ocean-like aura, returning to nothingness. The entire Soul River battlefield was in a state of desolation. Everything in the world was withering, and all life force had been completely sucked out. All of this was because of the supreme resurrection. He looked coldly at the Dog Emperor, Jioi, and the others. As for the outside world, it was just as terrifying. The heavens rumbled, and the great Tao exploded. At this time, all worlds were about to fall. Tao sounds rumbled everywhere, and the laws were breaking apart. It was an incomparably shocking scene of the end of the world. Abnormal scenes appeared in many heavens, and the corpses of Tao ancestors fell into the abyss. The phantom of the supreme creature in the Soul River appeared indistinctly, and it was reflected in the great heavens. The corpses of the ancestors of the various sects lay at its feet, dripping with blood. It intimidated all living beings in the present world. There were scenes of the past, and there were also previews of the future. They appeared in the heaven region, and it shone on all the realms, leaving every expert horrified. On this day, all the evolved beings trembled. Was the world about to reach its end? Was another great era about to end? There wasn't a single race that didn't feel a sense of sadness. The imperishable orthodoxies, inheritances that had passed through more than one great era, were all long prepared. Now, a few old monsters sighed, and they began to make arrangements. Soul River, the world behind the gate. Jioi finally twisted his neck. There were no bones, but there were still crackling sounds. He said inwardly, Motherf *Ker, he can actually come out? At this time, even the Dog Emperor was a bit anxious, and he said, Dead human skin, you really are as steady as a dog. Why don't you call someone over? The rotten corpse wanted to go up and beat him up. He couldn't stand old human skin's slow temper. Jioi secretly transmitted his voice. If I could call someone over, would I still be here today? I would have destroyed the Soul River and the ancient underworld long ago. I just wanted to see if I could scare him. Damn you! The Dog Emperor almost jumped up, and he really wanted to smack him to death with his paw. So you were pretending all along. To think that I said you were the most reliable just now. The rotten corpse was also dumbfounded, and his entire body froze in place. The bald male was speechless. No one was as ridiculous as this one. Was everything just a bluff? The martial emperor's eyes were green, and he didn't want to say anything. It was clear that the supreme creature in the Soul River didn't believe that Jioi could call that person back. Then why did you stop me from making a move just now? The Dog Emperor wanted to bite this dead human skin to death. He had never seen such an unreliable person, and he only cared about talking. Even Li Su was speechless. He stood at the side, not wanting to pay him any attention. Let me make a move. The Dog Emperor was extremely serious. Everyone said that he was unreliable, but now it seemed that he was the most reliable. Jioi said, Don't make a move. What if you miss? I was worried that this so-called supreme creature was just a substitute, and he was deliberately luring us to use our trump card. That would be troublesome, so I stopped you. The Dog Emperor was also worried. The trump card was naturally left for the last moment, and he needed to hit it in one strike. If something went wrong, they would all die here. Boom. At this time, in the ultimate destination, the eyes opened even wider, and there seemed to be endless great realms appearing. They were all in the eyes, and those great realms were all destroyed. Was that the scene of the supreme creature massacring all the realms? The imperial bell shook violently, and it was obvious that it was withstanding a boundless mighty force. The bell waves were vast, and they resounded throughout the heavens and tens of thousands of realms, deeply shocking all the experts. The black dog was activating the great bell, communicating with the will within its body. In reality, the weapon spirit had already awakened. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to block the supreme aura. Only when it revived on its own could it release boundless might. But unfortunately, it was badly damaged. In the bloody war of the past, it had been pierced through, and many fragments of the bell were scattered outside. One. Let me do it, Jiui said, raising his spear. Was it starting again? The Dog Emperor, the corpse, and the others didn't want to talk to him anymore. Dog, tell me that visualization method of yours. It seems to have other mysteries, and there's something unique about it. I'll try to visualize and summon that being, Jiui said solemnly, raising his spear. The Dog Emperor was stunned. This old man really dared to mess around. He said, "You don't even have bones. You won't be able to hold on. Besides, are you familiar with that being? I walked with the Celestial Emperor until the end, so I dare to visualize like this. I even have a strand of the Celestial Emperor's origin essence, so I have no fear." Familiar, Jiui said, but he was also very disappointed. He had prayed for countless years, but no one had responded. This made him sad and worried. He raised his head and said, "Tell me how to visualize, and I'll summon him on that basis." At the same time, Jiui took the initiative to attack. At this time, the spear was completely resplendent, and it was no longer ordinary. Killing intent overflowed into the heavens, and it seemed as if it could pierce through all worlds. One could see that it was sparkling and translucent, and countless great Tao symbols burned fiercely. It was like a torch of the origin of civilization, igniting the darkness of the great universe. At this moment its light illuminated all worlds. All experts could sense it and see it, and they all gasped. It was like a bright lamp in the boundless ocean of darkness, a lighthouse that was guiding a certain supreme expert, allowing him to find the way home. Is that the ancient celestial quartz spear? Some of the ancient experts who had lived for an incomparably long time recognized the origins of this spear, and their hearts trembled. It had actually appeared again, and today, the heavens were about to be pierced through. One could see 10,000 Daos become flames. The spear point shone, igniting it. The sounds of order and great worlds collapsing could be heard. Jiui was visualizing, calling out to that person. At the same time, he used all of his strength to stab out with this spear. Under the great bell's barrier of light, an area was revealed, allowing the spear point to pierce through. Symbols erupted with brilliance, and killing intent suppressed 10,000 worlds. Kill. The Dog Emperor was also cooperating, communicating with the Great Bell's consciousness, asking it to release the most powerful attack to suppress the terrifying creatures in the vile earth. The creatures of the Soul River were endless, but now they all disappeared, swept away by the beam of light released by the opening and closing eye. Otherwise, those that remained here would all have been turned to ashes. The bell waves shocked the world. It didn't only shake the killing tribulation, but also the source of time. This was that Celestial Emperor's most powerful method, a great Tao that had been comprehended for countless years. His weapon naturally contained endless wondrous truths. Time was like water, sweeping over, and then turning into a blade of time, cutting through the endless ages and eternity. Hong. At the end of the darkness, there erupted a blinding beam of light. 10,000 Daos sank, and the laws of the heavens collapsed. It was too terrifying, and the long blade of time swept through everything. At the same time, Jiui's spear point emitted immeasurable light. It penetrated eternity and was unstoppable. It also pierced forward to suppress all evil throughout the ages. This place was annihilated noiselessly, and the aura of creation filled the air. Then, it rapidly expanded. Everything seemed to have been beaten back to the beginning, and all things were in primal chaos. Unfortunately, this isn't that person's weapon, but his spoils of war. Jiui sighed softly in his heart. In the outside world, Qin Prefecture, Chu Feng raised his head and gazed at the sky. This world was about to change, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared continuously. One moment, the sky was dyed with blood, the next was the scene of Tao ancestors perishing, and the next was the bloody tears of immortal kings. On this day, all evolvers could capture all kinds of special phenomena, and even mortals could feel it. They could vaguely see the miraculous scene beyond the heavens. Chu Feng was very anxious. He had already circled 108 times, and he was about to lose his way, but he was getting closer and closer to the Soul Light Cave. I really don't want to go. He couldn't help but lament. Was this still reasonable? No matter how they changed their route, patterns appeared under their feet. It was like a space-time tunnel opened by nature, and the end point was the Soul River. He had already sent Zilwan away, and she wasn't affected. Chu Feng realized that he most likely couldn't escape. In the end, he still had to go over. What was going on? Damn it! He cursed. Wasn't running over now just throwing his life away? It was true that he called himself Chu Zhongdi, but he was from the future, not the present. If he rushed over now, he could even kill the white duck from before if there was nothing wrong with its body, let alone the big guy in the Soul River. Chu Feng tried one last time. Regardless of whether he climbed over the mountains or crossed the Sun River, which was like a golden ocean, it was of no use. The patterns of the great Tao spread under his feet like ripples, and also like interweaving galaxies. They formed a path for him, and in the end, it still led to the Soul Light Cave. If I can't choose and I can't resist, then I'll descend with force. Compromise and lower his head. He absolutely wouldn't admit it. I'll go over myself, okay? Chu Feng was driven crazy. He clenched his teeth and decided to go over by himself. Regardless of whether it was a force pulling him or a certain person making a move to force him to the Soul River, he didn't want to be too embarrassed. That white duck used to be very afraid of me. Also, that black dog used to look at me strangely. Do I look like someone? On the way, Chu Feng began to act crazily. First, he chose suitable clothes and then he made them old. In the end, he simply found a tattered battle suit that old Gu had given him. It had been excavated from prehistoric times, and he put it on. Then, he tidied himself up and made himself old. He groped around for a while and found a small black wooden spear the length of a chopstick. He inserted it into his hair bun and used it as a wooden hairpin. He felt that this toy was absolutely ancient, and its value was unimaginable. It was very suitable to be used as a hairpin, and it wouldn't lower its value. I stand at the peak of the great Tao, the strongest since ancient times. Who is chanting my name? Who is calling out my true form? Chu Feng struck a pose. He felt that it would be too easy to expose himself. After all, his level of evolution hadn't reached the ultimate domain. No matter how loud his mouth was, if he met an unreasonable peerless existence, he would definitely be minced meat if they slapped him with their palms. My pretense isn't strong enough. My godhead is a bit lacking, and my Tao form is also dissatisfied. I still have to make myself old. Along the way, he strode forward. He was also tidying himself up. Otherwise, it would be dangerous enough for him to be looked down upon by others. At the very least, he felt that he should have his own style when he appeared. Regardless of whether it was an act or whether it would be like this in the future, he didn't want to lose face now. However, he couldn't find many things that could make himself old even after rummaging through his entire body. Only the stone jar and the 3 seeds were presentable, but he didn't dare reveal these things. Otherwise, he might be like the supreme Tao fruit left behind by the immortal emperor who passed away in meditation. Everyone wanted to take a bite and taste the Tripitaka's flesh. Reincarnation Earth. Later on, Chu Feng discovered that this thing was special enough and ancient enough. He didn't know how many years it had accumulated at the end of the reincarnation path for it to be this small. Moreover, the old man had once said that his big brother Li Su had searched for endless years, but he didn't know if he had found even 1 or 2 pieces of soul flesh. This thing's name seemed to be Soul Flesh? There seemed to be an even more astonishing title. What to do? Chu Feng clenched his teeth and directly refined the soul flesh into his flesh. This thing's aura was sufficiently ancient. If his entire body emitted the aura of endless years of energy, perhaps no one would dare say that he was a little brat. When the time comes, don't provoke me. In this celestial emperor's eyes, all of you are just a bunch of old bastards. Chu Feng hypnotized himself. If he didn't believe himself, how could he scare others? It really hurts. Chu Feng grimaced in pain as he poured the soul flesh into his body. His entire body felt as if it was being cut by knife. He was dripping with blood, and the pain surpassed all his previous injuries. It was too unbearable. This won't do. I have to arrange them into supreme runes. Only then will it be more presentable. Chu Feng pondered for a moment and directly started on himself. He arranged the soul flesh in his flesh and constructed some kind of inscrutable runes. Early on, he discovered in the radiant city of death on the reincarnation path that a row of golden runes would flash when the giant millstone crushed the corpses of tens of thousands of living beings. Later on, he saw a more comprehensive and complete golden rune that was even more profound than the millstone. It had appeared when the stone jar had shone. Now he was carving this kind of rune. Before long, Chu Feng's aura really changed. It was ancient, profound, and actually somewhat immeasurable. It made people completely unable to see through him. Chu Feng was bewildered. The effect was too obvious. Even he himself felt as if he had become a different person. He muttered to himself, "I'm actually so ancient, mysterious, and tyrannical. Am I a supreme being?" This was simply delusional confidence. Of course, he didn't want to admit it. He only wanted to say that this celestial emperor was only temporarily hypnotizing himself. Everything was for the sake of tempering himself and making him stronger and peerless throughout the ages. Again, for the sake of safety. Chu Feng really threw caution to the wind. He struck his soul flesh into his bones and mixed it with his bone marrow. After that, he took care of his internal organs and his entire body. Who dared to act so recklessly? If it was someone else, he reckoned he'd be tormented to death. In the end, when he also injected his soul flesh into his bones and internal organs and arranged the golden runes properly, his entire body became a field of primal chaos. An indescribable aura circulated and was already immeasurable. For a moment, he was clearly standing in place, but it was as if he had disappeared from the world. It was very difficult to sense him again. I am the Celestial Emperor, standing at the summit of the Great Tao. Chu Feng spoke again. This time, he felt a little proper. He pondered that he had already bowed 99 times. Perhaps he still lacked one last shiver. After that, he went all out and began to put it into action. He struck his soul flesh into his own soul light and began to smelt and arrange it, forming those supreme runes that were reflected in his entire soul. From this moment onwards, he had a feeling that he had completely separated himself from the world. This kind of comprehension was very fleeting, very strange, and also very astonishing. It gave him a kind of misconception that he was very strong. Now, his soul flesh had fused with his soul light and dispersed between his flesh and bones. This made him truly different. It can't be that soul flesh should be used like this, right? Chu Feng was seriously doubtful. Unfortunately, old Gu didn't know why Li Su was looking for this kind of thing back then. He only knew that the value of this thing was too high and unimaginable. Is it good or bad for me to use it like this? Chu Feng frowned. It doesn't matter. If I can still live after this matter is over, I'll just dig it out again if something goes wrong at that time. Chu Feng pondered. He raised his head and suddenly discovered that he could already see that terrifying area. The shattered soul light cave was emitting chaotic qi unceasingly, and a terrifying energy was being emitted. If he rashly charged over, he reckoned that even an almighty would have his corporeal body crumble and his soul light extinguished forever. Under Chu Feng's feet, that kind of mysterious golden pattern was spreading and interweaving to construct a broad and open road that led straight to the front of the Soul River. All the energy and chaotic qi automatically dispersed when they encountered this road. This was a true and classic invulnerability. It's a little strange and evil. Chu Feng's pupils contracted. He adjusted his emotions and stopped letting his imagination run wild. He was about to reach his destination, so he had to have that kind of bearing. The next moment, he clasped his hands behind his back and looked disdainfully at the world as he walked proudly. It wasn't that he hadn't been in such a state before. Back then, in the little netherworld, he had also fought everywhere without an opponent. Of course, he still had to pretend to be more profound and unfathomable now. I'm the Supreme Chu Feng. I'm the invincible Celestial Emperor. Chu Feng constantly reminded himself in his heart. However, looking at the road under his feet, he still felt a little like he was wandering in the universe. How on earth was this formed? In a trance, it seemed that some kind of energy was pouring out of his body and constructing this road. Could it be that he really had some secret? No, Chu Feng shook his head. He was him, not anyone else. Then, he thought about his entire body. There were only a few things that could be unexpected. The stone jar and the 3-seed. What else could there be? Or was it to say that there was someone else secretly guiding him here? Chu Feng had arrived. He walked into that mysterious passage and saw the Soul River again. He also saw the end of the Soul River, the door. He was speechless. Great Tao patterns interweaved under his feet, pointing straight at the world behind the door. He had no choice. Since he was already here, he might as well charge into the world behind the door. At this time, in front of the Soul River Ultimate Land, the aura was boundlessly terrifying and incomparably horrifying. Bell waves swept out. This time, it wasn't in the form of a heavenly blade, but rather true ripples that swept through the past, present, and future. It was too astonishing. There was also that peerless spear point piercing through all obstructions. This emperor doesn't believe in the supernatural. I will defy the heavens. The dog emperor roared. His entire body was covered in blood. Even though his body was withered, he was still activating the last of his blood energy, burning it to kill the unmatched creature. There was a problem with him after all, or else he wouldn't be like this. He would have long slaughtered his way out and destroyed everything. Jiudao also roared, his entire body covered in blood. In that ultimate land, at the end of the endless darkness, when that eye opened, there was actually blood flowing out. It had flowed down from the Emperor Bell's attack just now. This was extremely terrifying. The unmatched creature's old injuries flared up again. When blood dripped down, the heavens actually rumbled, and there were heavenly domains that cracked apart. It was extremely horrifying. The Dog Emperor went all out. He once again visualized the Celestial Emperor activating the Great Bell, saying, "Are you still there? Come back. This Emperor is in trouble. Descend. Destroy the Soul River. Flatten the source of the strangeness." Jiudao had already learned that special visualization method. He sacrificed blood to the battle spear, calling out to that legendary person. He continuously prayed in his heart, inviting him to return. "Ants, have you finished calling? Who dares descend?" In the Soul River Ultimate Land, that unmatched creature was incomparably cold, emotionless, and indifferent. It was as if he was sitting before the creation of heaven and earth, overlooking a group of ants. However, as soon as his words fell, a person silently appeared in front of the Soul River. No one had sensed him beforehand. He was a blur, surrounded by great mist. Woof. The Dog Emperor almost fell on his butt. Someone really descended? The Black Blood Research Institute's master was shocked. In the depths of the Soul River Ultimate Land, there was suddenly no sound. That person was very blurry. He had his hands behind his back, calmly gazing at the darkest end of the vile earth, staring at that bleeding eye. Chapter 1479. No one expected that a figure would truly appear. It was completely silent, already standing in front of the Soul River. He was surrounded by the fog. With his hands behind his back, he stared at the deepest part of the vile earth, the source of the strangeness. Everyone was shaken, great waves surging in their hearts, all of them petrified on the spot. The summoning was successful. A supreme expert had returned. This was hard to believe. They were just giving it a try, yet in the end, a powerful creature really did descend here? Even after a while, the people present were still in a daze, not daring to believe it. The Soul River was quiet, not a single sound could be heard. Even the deepest part of the ultimate wretched earth was deathly silent. Even that supreme being had lost his voice. A figure traversed the world, looking disdainfully at the everlasting clear sky. The world was silent, not a single sound could be heard. For a long time, no one came back to their senses. The zombie's entire body was trembling, and he almost rushed over, but he resisted and restrained his impulsive emotions. The bald man wanted to scream out. Even though his clothes were tattered, body covered in great Tao injuries, right now, he was excited and moved to an indescribable degree, even trembling. Li Su stared at the back of that figure, unable to remain calm. The martial emperor's oily green eyes had long since become fixated. The owner of the Black Blood Research Institute was dumbfounded. He stood rooted to the ground, unable to move. What had he seen today? The living supreme legend had returned. Soul River Extreme Land was filled with countless strange creatures. Right now they were all trembling with fear, feeling great fear. They sensed that something big was going to happen. That was because not long ago, they had all seen the Dog Emperor and the old man's skin praying, calling someone back. And now, they had succeeded. Without a doubt, in their knowledge, this was definitely an extremely powerful being. In the innermost depths of the Soul River terminus, that place was cold and quiet. That terrifying eye hadn't disappeared, still floating in the dark cosmos. It was extremely large, could be said to be boundlessly vast, many times larger than a planet. A trickle of blood dripped down from the eyeball. In the darkness, it looked very sad and terrifying. It was no longer overbearing, observing, examining, staring at the hazy figure in the distance, its mind heavy, exceptionally serious. For a moment, he was speechless. Not long ago, he didn't place all living beings in the world in his eyes. He was cold and emotionless, and he viewed his enemies as ants. So what if someone reached the Soul River? He didn't care. But now it was different. No matter how confident he was, it all depended on who was coming. He could no longer remain indifferent, unable to remain calm. At this moment, the scenes of the great worlds dying, the starry rivers extinguishing, and the heavens falling appeared in the depths of his eyes. He was ready for battle, transferring his body's unmatched power. It was as if they were facing a great enemy, as if they had fallen into an abyss. The unmatched creatures of Soul River Extremity were unexpectedly serious, not daring to relax in the slightest as they confronted that figure. But no matter what, it was impossible for him to retreat. Who was he to be revered as supreme? How could he avoid the battle just because a figure had arrived? At this level, they still had the necessary cautiousness, but they definitely wouldn't be cowardly. They wouldn't admit that they were inferior to others. This was the innate temperament of supreme experts. For a moment, the atmosphere at the Soul River was terrifying. No one made a sound. No one broke the silence. An austere aura pervaded the air, and all living things withered. No one spoke. It was terrifying, oppressive to the extreme. It was practically suffocating. Everyone stared at the blurry figure in the fog. Who was he? Chu Feng. He had really arrived here passively. Earlier, the great Tao patterns interweaved beneath his feet, and he couldn't help but take a step forward. In the end, he suddenly arrived here. Beside the Dog Emperor, someone finally couldn't hold it in and shouted, "I." Damn, the celestial Dharch is here. I'm going too. Chu Feng wanted to run. What did you say? I don't understand, don't harm me. Who is the celestial Dharch? Do you want me to fight the unmatched? I'm just passing by. Why are you all looking at me? I don't know you. Chu Feng's face was about to turn green. He felt that there were unruly people who wanted to harm him. However, he couldn't change his expression. He restrained himself with great willpower, making himself as unmoving as a mountain and as steady as a boulder. Finally, it was quiet. The person who had impulsively spoken shut his mouth. The atmosphere was tense, and no one was willing to break this special silence. Now, a group of people was looking at Chu Feng. What are you all looking at? I'm lost. He really wanted to say that. Have you never seen someone who walked the wrong way before? Why are you all staring at me? He was furious, feeling like he was going to die here. However, he couldn't open his mouth to explain, and he had to remain silent. He had already sensed the situation here. The group of people behind him didn't have any killing intent, and it could even be said that their eyes were burning as they stared at him. Among them were familiar faces like the black dog and the human skin of the first mountain. They had great backgrounds. As for the area ahead, it was even more terrifying. A boundless eye seemed to squeeze the entire dark universe, and it was incomparably cold. Chu Feng's arrival made the unmatched creature in the depths of the Soul River extremely fearful. Until now, it hadn't spoken. The two camps could be said to be extremely tense. The arrival of one person had completely changed the situation. However, Chu Feng didn't have this kind of awareness. He looked at that eye and felt like he was being targeted. Who are you glaring at? That's enough, staring at me endlessly. Your eyes deserve to bleed. After standing here for a moment, he naturally understood the situation of the two camps. They were in a standoff, and he also understood the dangerous situation he was in. If things went wrong, he would have to fight the unmatched creature, a great battle of life and death. However, did he have the capital to deal with the unmatched creature? If he really did make a move and was stuck to his body by the large hand of a creature of that level, not even flesh would be left. He would most likely have nothing left. When he thought of this, Chu Feng calmed himself down. He made up his mind not to speak. Silence was golden. This was because once he conversed with the unmatched creature, the more he said, the more mistakes he would make. It was enough as long as he maintained the demeanor of an expert. Moreover, he believed that his character was higher, so he definitely couldn't speak before the unmatched creature in the depths of the Soul River. Didn't all experts speak last? When he thought of this, the great fog around Chu Feng became even thicker. His body was as still as a prehistoric divine mountain, unmoving. He kept looking at the bleeding eye in the Soul River's ultimate land. He really wanted to say, "You're already bleeding and crying, why are you still pretending to be a big shot? If you have something to say, hurry up and say it." The silence was broken. The Dog Emperor was incomparably excited and happy. It really couldn't hold it in any longer. It let out a loud bark and looked down on the overlord of the Soul River. It felt that the summoning was successful. At this juncture, the dog life should be enjoyed to the fullest. After enduring for so many years, how could it not let out a breath of resentment? The decayed corpse, bald man, and the others were also full of fighting spirit. No matter what, their morale was high. Chu Feng cried, "Can you guys let me be a bit less worried?" From the looks of it, they were forcing him to fight with the unmatched creature. He really wanted to shout, "This is 2F** King Bad. I'll be turned into dust with a single palm. You guys are all big holes." Chu Feng regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Why did he come here? Who brought him here? They were all big holes. Humph! At the end of the Soul River, in the depths of the vile earth, a powerful origin creature was dissatisfied. It cheered for the unmatched creature, crying out for the unmatched creature, confronting the Dog Emperor, Jiu Daoi, and the others. Even that enormous eye gradually became cold, once again releasing a merciless cold light. The legendary one, the owner of the eye, spoke. He had some doubts. That person had long disappeared for endless years, completely cut off from the heavens. He shouldn't be able to return. When he thought of this, he actually released a sigh of relief from the depths of his heart. Or was it the heavenly emperor that the dog emperor used to follow? He shouldn't have appeared either. He was suspected to be in that mysterious copper coffin, currently isolated from the rest of the world. No one could find him right now. However, if the indistinct figure before him was deceiving him, why was his aura so terrifying, deep and immeasurable? Not even he could see through it. This was especially the case with that great mist that was extremely strange, not even a creature of his level able to see through it. That was why this unmatched creature was endlessly bewildered. A strand of will descended? The unmatched creature spoke again. This place became quiet, no one replying. I just won't say anything, I'll just silently look at you. Chu Feng maintained his original posture, not moving at all. Tai Yi, Martial Emperor, and the others all felt that this person was too calm and composed, not even paying attention to the unmatched creature's words. This type of style, who could compare to him? He looked down on the Soul River, ignoring the unmatched creature in the vile earth, truly stirring up the people behind him. Hot blood surged, all of them wishing they could shout along with him. In the final destination, many creatures of the Soul River were alarmed. That person was too terrifying, actually not paying any attention to their unmatched lord, completely ignoring him. This gave them a bad feeling. The Soul River wouldn't encounter a great disaster today, right? In the eyes of the powerful creatures of the Soul River, that person was like an immortal great mountain, towering over them. He was currently pressuring them. Could it be that he wanted to suppress the Soul River alone? Chu Feng's heart twitched. What kind of expressions are all of you making? Regardless of whether it is those damned monsters on the other side or the allies behind me, are you all purposely trying to kill me? Can't you all see that the cold light released by that large eyeball is about to sever the great Tao? I can't help but take action. However, what could he do? Forget it, my heart is still the same. I'll just maintain this type of indifferent attitude. He looked down on the Soul River, silently watching just like that. I just won't say anything. In the vile earth, the unmatched creature's killing intent split the sea of stars. Who was he? The unmatched being revered by all realms, the heavens feared a single thought from him, yet now, he was completely disregarded. Even before he achieved the Tao, he still had his own pride, let alone now. Black mist surged, submerging the vile earth. The ultimate place was a vast and boundless universe. The eye was suspended in the center, and boundless darkness covered it, appearing extremely terrifying. For a moment, a strange aura covered the sky and earth. Be careful, don't be corroded by the ominous black mist. The decayed corpse shouted, reminding the people around him that he had become like this because he had been corroded by all kinds of pollution sources in the past. If it wasn't for the fact that he was heaven-defying enough, anyone else would have been killed long ago. Don't worry, the black mist can't come over. The Dog Emperor was calm. It felt that the figure was 10,000 times more reliable than Nine Daoi, so there was no need to worry at all. Chu Feng finally moved. He looked up at the sky, wanting to let out a long sigh. Was he going to be corroded to death? However, in the eyes of others, this character was really incomparably high. What was he doing? In the face of the unmatched killing intent, he completely ignored it, preferring to look up at the sky. The owner of the Black Blood Research Institute couldn't control himself, and said with a trembling voice, "It's really engulfing the universe, Grand Spirit, shocking the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries, unrivaled." F***CK, your grandpa, what are you saying? See if I don't die fast enough. Chu Feng wanted to beat him to death. At this time, the abnormal scene was shocking. Endless black mist surged, completely erupting, corroding the great world outside. Large holes appeared in heaven and earth, and the river of time also had problems. However, when all of the black mist rushed over, just as it approached not far from Chu Feng, golden patterns spread under his feet, stopping all of the black mist. Moreover, with chi-chi sounds, the inauspicious was evaporated, and then spiritual essence enshrouded, followed by a holy aura. This is the unmatched method, the body like a great bell, cleansing the ages, cleansing the heavens. Someone shouted loudly. Chu Feng accepted this compliment, inwardly, extremely comforted. So I was actually this strong? He was floating in the air, so what if I let you corrode me? I'm impervious to all methods. Then, he didn't say anything, holding his hands behind his back, silently gazing at the sky just like that. Big eyeballs, I don't even want to look at you anymore. At the end of the Soul River, in the ultimate land, the unmatched creature's pupils contracted, but he wasn't angry. The emotions of a normal creature had long since disappeared from his body, and what he had now was only battle intent, which was even more fierce. The unmatched couldn't retreat, only fight. Hong. At this time, he was going to take action. The limits of the Soul River immediately exploded. A large area of life force was so strong it couldn't scatter, surging. That was the place where the unmatched creature was recovering from his injuries, now releasing wisps of special matter. These were all the highest essence produced by the Soul River, precious materials that were difficult to find throughout the world, impossible to see in the outside world. Now, just the wisps that floated out already made one feel as if heaven and earth were different, as if they were everlasting, able to exist forever, thus becoming imperishable. In that place, a terrifying figure gradually appeared. The unmatched creature was going to reveal his true body. However, he also paid a great price. The only thing that could be clearly seen was his ice-cold eyes that were dripping with blood. The great battle of the past left him with fatal injuries. Originally, this type of creature could affect the rise and fall of the heavens with a single thought, his true body impossible to erase. However now, time flowed on, years passing by, yet his injuries were still far from healing. The terrifying silhouette was part human, part vicious bird, filling and splitting the great cosmos, making one feel suffocated. In the outside world, many experts immediately sensed this, to the extent where they could see the general outline of that terrifying creature in their sea of consciousness. They immediately trembled. Many realms were cracking apart, the heavens seemingly about to fall. This really was too terrifying. He who takes action first gains the advantage. Nine Dowie shouted. Do you think I don't want to? Chu Feng was in grief and indignation. At this moment, if he had the strength, he would have long sent a slap over. What could he do? He still maintained the same posture, his hands behind his back, watching flowers bloom and wither, clouds gather and scatter. This time, the unmatched creature was truly angered. Even though his heart was previously like an ancient well without ripples, long cutting off those types of emotions, he still couldn't endure it. That figure in the great mist with his hands behind his back really didn't put him in his eyes, still ignoring him even now. Just how arrogant and conceited was this? Ha! The unmatched creature released a light shout, his true body moving. Rumbling sounds rang through the dark cosmos, 10,000 realms seemingly about to explode. The scene of countless Tao ancestors' corpses lying beneath his feet illuminated the heavens. Goo! Suddenly, it was as if spring water was surging, as if a waterfall was hanging down. A white stream flew over from the ultimate land's depths, quickly gathering towards Chu Feng. The life force was rich to the point where it couldn't be dissolved. This was the unmatched essence of the Soul River. Everyone was stupefied. That figure in the great mist with his hands behind his back was just too valiant, right? Was this looting the unmatched creature's recovery substance? In that instant, at the end of the Soul River, the sea of origin creatures were all shocked. They could clearly feel that the unmatched essence within the soul matter was being devoured. Chu Feng was stupefied. The golden patterns beneath his feet were like a glutton, swallowing and drinking, absorbing the special precious substance within the depths of the vile earth. Unmatched and unmatched! In the rear, the bald male shouted loudly. Even though the battle hadn't started yet, he felt his blood that had cooled down for many years start to boil, his battle intent surging. His mind surged. The past scenes reappeared, Celestial Emperor returned. Was he going to overturn the Soul River today? There was only one word: fight. The gurgling soul matter essence entered the golden patterns, quickly disappearing. Chu Feng finally knew who did it. He saw the main culprit, the stone jar. He had long suspected it, and in the end, it was finally confirmed. It was this thing that drew him to the Soul River, running here to absorb the unmatched soul matter essence? Something wasn't right. Soon after, he discovered another abnormality. There was something in the stone jar that was also absorbing the Soul River's precious substance, producing traces of changes. It was a seed. It wasn't the one that had taken root and sprouted before, but rather a new one. When he first obtained it, there were 3 seeds in the stone jar. One could still be considered normal, able to blossom and bear fruit. The other was black and shriveled, a bit deformed, lacking vitality. The remaining one was purplish-brown, flat as if it had been squashed. The last 2 seeds hadn't shown any signs of activity after so many years. Chu Feng tried everything he could, but he didn't see the slightest change. They were very special. Back then, when he experienced reincarnation and sneaked into the world of the living, Chu Feng's physical body was torn to pieces, but the seed withstood the crushing of reincarnation and wasn't damaged in the slightest. Today, that black and shriveled seed was actually absorbing the unmatched soul matter. It swelled up a bit, no longer dry, and also had a bit of vitality. The seed had revived? Chu Feng looked inside, observing the stone jar and seed in his body. He simply didn't dare to believe that one of the lifeless seeds actually glowed with a bit of vitality. Now, he couldn't help but wonder how he had come here in the end. Was it driven by the jar or by the seed? It was full of confusion. In any case, there was something strange about the jar and seed, and he couldn't guess their origins. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, leaving no time for Chu Feng to think too much. At this time, the unmatched creature was furious. Ransack him in his lair right in front of him? This was intolerable. This was especially the case now, when he already took action, but that figure in the great mist was still robbing him, completely unrestrained, stealing his recovery matter from the ultimate destination. The most infuriating thing was that the figure in the great mist still had his hands behind his back, still looking into the sky. This really was unbearable. He stole the unmatched soul matter in a righteous and confident manner, yet he was still being ignored like this? This was completely unreasonable. If it was someone else with an explosive temper, their lungs and heart might explode. He no longer endured it, truly having had enough. In his hands, a resplendent long blade appeared. It was sparkling and translucent, releasing 9-colored auspicious multicolored light, engulfing the heavens. 10,000 worlds trembled, many void rumbling, reflecting this blade. It left all of the great worlds shaken, countless evolvers shivering in fear. The unmatched creature at the limits of the ultimate destination took action, brandishing his weapon, releasing a world-shocking blade. It was too terrifying. That blade was dazzling to the extreme, reaching the Soul River from the depths of the dark cosmos, arriving at the battlefield of emperors, piercing through the starry sky of the cosmos. This was, without a doubt, a world-dominating blade, carrying the anger of an unmatched being. "Be careful," the bald man growled, clenching his fists tightly. Although he knew that he didn't have the qualifications to intervene, because he cared too much and was too nervous, he still felt a strong sense of unease. "Kill!" At this time, even the martial madman couldn't help but shout out, hoping that person would unleash an attack that would dominate the heavens and earth. He also went a little crazy. He wasn't the only one. The master of the Black Blood Research Institute and the others also felt the same, as if they were facing a blade that shocked the heavens and 10,000 worlds. Their soul light was trembling. If it wasn't for that person blocking in front of them, in addition to the protection of the Emperor's bell, and the battle spear that covered the sky, they probably wouldn't be able to stand here. Was a true great battle about to erupt? Everyone was incomparably nervous. However, wasn't that person too calm? No, he finally moved. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, he turned around and looked towards the end of the Soul River, staring at the unmatched being in the vile earth. You are still watching? He was still so calm, truly as steady as an old dog, so steady that the rotten corpse and the others were panicking. That figure in the great fog was 2F** King calm. This won't do. The crystalline 9-colored long blade pierced through the great universe and slashed down in front of you, yet you still didn't make a move? That instant also meant eternity. These were all things that could happen in a single thought of the powerful being. Kill! Nine Dowie roared. He was too worried. Why wasn't he making a move? Was he going to passively wait for the unmatched being in the Soul River to kill him? You're going too far. The others hadn't even gotten angry, but the unmatched being in the Soul River was already roaring. Did you look down on me that much? Even now, you're still pretending. Chu Feng wanted to cry. If he could fight, he would have long since made a move. Whether he fought or not, whether he made a move or not, there was only one result. What could he do? Naturally, he would continue to look at the clouds in the horizon and the distant waves of the Soul River. In any case, he wouldn't look at him. In the eyes of the unmatched being, this was a naked provocation, contempt, and looking down on an ant. It was as if it was saying to him, "Look, I'm indifferent even when you make a move." That was why his emotions were boiling. He had to cut down that figure in the great fog with a single blade. Everyone's scalps went numb. Could it be avoided? Could it be that he had to use the great Tao to obliterate that blade? Boom! In that instant, shocking changes took place. Golden patterns covered Chu Feng's body densely, protecting him within. This wasn't all. Outside the golden patterns, there was a layer of blood-colored halo that supported the outside. It was as if a golden flame was dyed in blood, and the golden body shone with scarlet light. That blade really didn't cut down. It was because it was blocked by a large hand. A bare hand stopped the sparkling and dazzling 9-colored long blade, preventing it from cutting down. As for the blade radiance and great Tao laws, they were also being crushed by the large hand. At this moment, the heavens and 10,000 realms rumbled and trembled violently. What is that? Even 9 Dowie cried out in alarm. Emperor patterns illuminate 10,000 realms. As for the outer layer of blood, it is the blood of enemies bathed in the past great battles, soaking the body and emerging. Celestial Emperor has returned. The fallen corpse roared. Chu Feng himself was shocked. He could understand the golden patterns, and they most likely originated from the stone jar. Today, this jar revived, desiring the unmatched wondrous substance of the Soul River. However, what was the blood-colored halo on the outermost layer of his body? He was a bit stupefied. That large hand was formed from the blood-colored halo. Chu Feng himself still had his hands behind his back, not moving at all. He just looked at the unmatched creature in the Soul River. Roar! In the depths of the vile earth, the unmatched creature roared angrily. You're still fucking looking at me? This was especially the case when the other party didn't move his true body. How could he not be angry? He was looking down on him too much. The unmatched creature wanted to berate him. You dare look down on me? Unforgivable, unforgivable. Kill. He activated the long blade again. That enormous eye in the darkness was dripping blood. When it opened and closed, 10,000 Tao symbols were destroyed, and the laws of the heavens were all breaking apart. The unmatched creature erupted with the most powerful attack, wishing to wipe out that figure. What left him shocked and furious was that a wave of terrifying aura suddenly covered over, making him feel as if he was trapped in a swamp. He was actually going to be locked in place. At the same time, within the blood-colored halo behind Chu Feng, a large hand appeared, slapping forward. "Where are you going to hit?" The unmatched creature's blood was boiling. That large hand's speed was too fast, covering his head. Was this a head-stroking attack? The most excessive, the thing that made him furious was that the strength of that large hand wasn't all that great, patting his head again and again. Was this humiliating him? Meanwhile, he actually couldn't evade, his body going rigid. This left him shocked, great waves surging within him. There was actually a creature who could do this to him. "Slap your dog head." In the distance, the rotten corpse roared loudly, cheering. When the dog emperor heard this, he didn't even react, not paying him any attention. He was currently shaking from excitement, unable to pay anything else any attention. This was simply unimaginable. An unmatched creature was slapped several times like this? Was this to suppress and kill him, or to humiliate and educate him? At the end of the Soul River, countless origin creatures were all terrified, all of them trembling. The invincible master of the Soul River in their hearts was actually being suppressed. Could it be that the legendary one had really returned? Great waves struck the heavens in everyone's hearts. At this time, Chu Feng's hair stood on end, because he realized that there was a huge problem here. Who was it that was attacking? This kind of feeling made him feel uneasy, made him shiver. He could feel that there seemed to be something behind him, as if there was some indescribable creature. He could even hear the sound of breathing, right at the back of his neck. Just what was it? Who was it? He had never thought that apart from the stone jar and the seed, there was still something he couldn't understand. When did he get involved with it? He was shocked. At this moment, the dog emperor was trembling, and even his heart was trembling. He was so excited that he almost cried out, tears welling up in his eyes. He was finally sure that this kind of power, this kind of combat prowess, was definitely not a phantom, not some strand of will descending, should be the true body of a supreme being returning. How many years had it been? Had he seen him again? He stared at the back of that figure, but the fog was too thick, and he couldn't see through it. Was it really him? Brother Celestial Emperor. At this time, Jiudao's lips were trembling, and his whole body was trembling in disbelief. He had guessed that it was someone else. Was it that person who had returned? He had prayed in front of the spear all year round, making wishes for countless years, but they had all failed. There had never been any movement. Now that person had returned just like that, who claimed to be invincible. Jiudao's eyes were red, and he wanted to cry and roar out loud. As long as that person had returned, who would he be afraid of? He should be able to destroy the ominous and sweep everything clean. Who would dare to jump out? Just as he had said before, who wouldn't accept it? Was it that person? Jiudao couldn't see through that special fog. Celestial Emperor. The dog emperor's muddy eyes were filled with hot tears, and he wanted to shout out loud. As long as he returned, everything would be solved. What Soul River? After so many years, it should have been destroyed and wiped clean. At this moment, what could Chu Feng do? My heart is still the same. With my hands behind my back, I will look at all of you in silence. However, when this landed in everyone's eyes, it was a supreme, profound, and unfathomable presence. It was an incomparably great might. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.